told BBC Three Counties that more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. Changing Faces, a charity which helps people cope with facial disfigurement, says there's too much pressure on people to look perfect. 10-year-old Shamim Arif from Luton suffered third-degree burns to her skin after a candle fell into her cot when she was only 5 months old. Her mother Taida and her auntie Fazana Javed say they worry for when she goes to high school in September.
She goes, I do feel I feel as if when sometimes bullying does happen, I do have that fear in me that could happen any point at high school.
And we'll be hearing more from Shamim and her mother with Iain Lee here on BBC Three Counties Radio in the next half an hour. The government's beginning a consultation on plans designed to save more than £200 million from the criminal legal aid budget in England and Wales. The announcement follows the introduction last week of measures to cut £350 million from the annual budget for civil cases. Now, a woman's died following an accident in Hitchin last month. She was knocked down on a crossing in Paynes Park. Lee Agnew has the details.
The woman, who was in her 50s, was walking across the one-way road just after 7 in the evening on the 16th of March. She was knocked down by a green Mondeo and taken to the Lister Hospital with serious injuries. The woman, who lived in Hitchin, died at the weekend. Hertfordshire Police are still investigating the accident and want anyone who saw what happened to come forward.
Moving on to sport, and in the Premier League, Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1 at Old Trafford to close the gap at the top to 12 points. Let's have a look at the weather. There will be showery outbreaks. Most of them will be light, though. Feeling chilly, little cooler than yesterday. Temperatures of 7 degrees Celsius. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Serena, are you doing anything sort of between now and the next bulletin?
Possibly.
Could you do me a favour?
I'm not making you a drink.
No. I wouldn't dare suggest you make me a cup of tea with my special tea bags I've got down here. No. Could you move your car so that people can get in and out of the car park easily? Because you've kind of sort of blocked the entrance a little bit, made it really difficult. Is that possible?
The thing is, I'm not selfish, and B, I can actually drive.
Right.
But, you see, when you come in early in the morning, right...
And the car park's empty, yes.
It's dark. We haven't got lights, have we? We haven't got floodlights. People have floodlights in car parks.
No, you're right, we don't. But on the front of my car, I've got lights, so I can see where I'm going. Just move it, all right, Farrow? Thank you. Honestly, it's the worst bit of parking. She's blocked the entrance. I had to do a 15-point turn to get into the car park. I did, it's terrible. It's sticking out. Good morning, dear listener. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. How are you this morning? I'm very surprised. I looked out of the window while I was having a wee. And you didn't need to know that part of the story, but it adds a bit of colour. And was surprised to see that it's getting light outside. It's getting light, and as Ollie Work Experience pointed out, we haven't had to scrape the frost off our car for the last 3 or 4 mornings. This is wonderful. Is spring finally here? Oh, I do hope so. Lots coming up on the show this morning, including, of course, tributes continue to be paid across beds, hearts and bucks to Lady Thatcher after her death at the age of 87. What do you think her legacy will be? A national charity has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a social stigma attached to people who've been disfigured. We'll hear the story of a Luton girl who lost her hair and facial features in a fire when she was a baby. And the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. Do you think there's anything wrong with Page 3? Sexist, outdated nonsense? Or just a bit of fun for the lads? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text if you want, although I'm not going to give you the text number, Or you can give me a call. That's the best way to get in touch. The switchboard is completely free. 08 459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Lady Thatcher's body has been moved from the Ritz in London as preparations are made for her funeral. The former Prime Minister had been staying at the hotel when she suffered a stroke and died yesterday. Her funeral is expected to take place with full military honours at St Paul's Cathedral in London next week. Well, one of the legacies of Mrs Thatcher was her reform of the trade unions. We can talk to a senior lecturer in industrial relations, Dr Alf Crossman from the University of Surrey. Good morning, Alf.
Good morning.
How do you think she'll be remembered?
I think it's going to be a very polarised memory of her. I think people in management will probably have very fond memories and probably thank her for the amount of freedom that she gave them from the 1980s onwards. I think probably amongst the Labour movement, she's going to be reviled for an awful long time because she changed the face of industrial relations without a doubt. And you have to remember that when the Conservatives came to power in 1979, there had never been before and has never been since such a high number of trade union members in the UK, sort of 13.25 million. It's virtually half of that now.
What was her motivation in her policy towards the unions?
Oh, I think she had something which is rarely seen in politics these days, and that she had a very strong political ideology, really quite far to the right. I don't think that you would describe her as being moderate in her political views. And she had the determination to get what she wanted. And I think what's absolutely fascinating, if you look at who she surrounded herself with in her cabinet, she had political heavyweights. Far more capable politicians then than we had now, but she was also quite brutal with them. And if they didn't toe her line, then I think their days certainly in the cabinet were numbered. But if you think about the people that she had working on policy with her, people like Keith Joseph, I mean, these were real heavyweight politicians.
How different was the setup of the unions in the 70s and 80s compared to now?
Well, I think the major difference was not so much with the unions themselves, because their structures tend to be very closely linked to what's going on in industry. And industry was much more dense then. You had a lot of manufacturing and production, so what we call high-density industry. Thousands of workers in the same place. Very easy to organise for trade unions. The employer organises them for the workforce. The union or unions come along and then organise them for the purposes largely of representation and collective bargaining, so solidaristic power. Now industry is much more fragmented. A lot of the manufacturing has been exported overseas and we import the product. So density was much higher then. I think the other thing that's different is that unions now there were fewer of them because of mergers and amalgamations of unions. They now tend to be much more general in terms of their membership coverage, whereas in the 70s, 80s, starting to dissipate in the 1990s, unions tended to be smaller, even though some of them were very large, and they tended to be craft-based, they tended to be very specific.
Alf, a lot of the newspapers read like a hagiography this morning, and let's not avoid the fact that she was very divisive, and her policy towards the unions led to huge divisions in the country, and even between families in the case of the miners' strike. Remind people what that was like.
Well, I think you have to go back a couple of stages, and one of the most fascinating documents I think anybody could read is a report that was produced in 1977 before the Conservatives came to power, and it was produced by the Conservative Research Department, and it's euphemistically referred to as the Ridley Report, and it's basically the plans for the public sector and privatisation. One of the reasons underlying that was to break the power of trade unions because they were very, very powerful in the public sector. So there was an awful lot of division, once we'd gone into the privatisation programme, once we start talking about whether nationalised industries were economically viable, which was the case in the miners' strike, there was then a high level of determination in government to essentially bring the unions to heel. Now, of course, if you look at the miners' strike, that was probably one of the most divisive disputes that we have ever seen and we're unlikely to see again, because it split communities. The interesting thing is it not only split communities, but it split the union movement. And I think Thatcher probably saw that as a victory, because you had the National Union of Mine Workers, under Arthur Scargill, called out on what turned out to be a year-long strike without a ballot. A lot of members of the National Union of Mine Workers thought that their democratic rights had been breached, that there should have been a ballot. They then, in Nottingham particularly and in Kent, set up the Union of Democratic Mine Workers, which sort of positioned themselves as being much more moderate, concerned with union members being able to get the democratic rights that they were entitled to under law at the time. But I think one of the I suppose most telling films that you could see, if you watch film Billy Elliot and look at what happened in communities there, people who wanted to go back to work and those who were determined not to, it broke up families, not only communities, it broke up families because Margaret Thatcher was so determined that she was going to beat the miners, and that she learnt the lesson of the 1970s when the NUM basically brought down the Heath government, and Thatcher wasn't going to allow that to happen again. And it all comes back to strategy, because she figured out that in order to keep the lights on in Britain for at least a year, they had to have coal, not at the pit heads, but they had to have coal at the power stations. And basically when they'd got a year's supply of coal and they knew that they could keep industry running, they could keep the lights on in Britain, then Thatcher basically allowed the strike to start, her and Ian McGregor.
Dr. Alf Crossman, thank you very much indeed. Senior Lecturer in Industrial Relations at the University of Surrey. Asking you this morning, what do you think will be Margaret Thatcher's legacy? 08459 455 555. Good or bad? I would suggest that let's be a little bit respectful. I know there is actually a lot of hatred out there. Woman's just died. I'm not one of those people that whatever my political beliefs, that jumps around and dances and celebrates the death of an old woman or a mother or a grandmother. But I'm keen to get both sides of the story. Let's make this as fair and as unbiased as we can. What do you think will be Margaret Thatcher's legacy? 08459 455 555. BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. We're asking you, what do you think Thatcher's legacy will be, good or bad? You can give us a call on that. And page 3 Is it an outdated concept? We'll have a look at The Sun in a bit and see if there is a page 3 today. And they do news, don't they? News in briefs, I believe they call it, because they're in their pants. We'll see if the young lady in question is talking about the death of Baroness Thatcher. Nearly 6:16. Here's the travel news with Adam Glynn.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Ian. Good morning. The M25 got narrow lanes, of course, 50 mile an hour speed restriction while those major works continue between the A1M at junction 23 and the A10 at junction 25. Looking at the cameras so far this morning, things are looking pretty good. Quite a dull start to the day, but at least traffic is moving okay. M40's running well. We've got works on the A40 in High Wycombe, temporary traffic lights for works around Queen's Road, though hopefully they'll be wrapping up those works at some point through today. And in Westcott, the A41 has temporary lights near to Creighton Road. On the trains, got a couple of cancellations already this morning. From Hertford North, the 703 down to Moorgate cancelled because a member of the train crew is unavailable. Your next Moorgate service after that one's 7:16, or if you need to get to London particularly early, 6:46 would be the one before it, so if you rush, you might just make it. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Morning, it's 6:17. It's Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Lady Thatcher's body has been moved from the Ritz in London as preparations are made for her funeral. A leading charity has told BBC Three Counties that more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. In sport, Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1 at Old Trafford to close the gap at the top of the Premier League to just 12 points. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. Showery outbreaks during the day. Most of these will be light, feeling chilly with an easterly breeze. Maximum temperature is 7 degrees. Coming up, a leading national charity has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a social stigma attached to people who've been disfigured. Coming up before 6:30, we'll hear the story of a Luton girl who lost her hair and facial features in a fire when she was just a baby. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Every weekday morning from 9.
The JVS Show.
With the biggest questions.
Today on the Big Phone-In, I'm asking, would you support some dog breeds being removed from this country? Should traffic wardens be more lenient? Would the government be right to drop the minimum price for alcohol?
And the biggest opinions.
I think the tax is completely unfair.
It doesn't matter how old they are or how young they are. They're still your children.
It doesn't matter whether it's male or female or what. I'm disgusted with the people. You should have cut them people off.
The JVS Show.
Weekdays from 9.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. sleeps and find I'm a number one, top of the list, king of the hill, a number one. These little town blues are melting away. I'm gonna make a brand new start of it in old New York. And if I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
It's a cliche, that song, but it's a good cliche. Oh, there we go, I'll have some of that. Now, Changing Faces, a leading national charity, has told BBC Three Counties that there is still a social stigma attached to people with a disfigurement and more needs to be done. The charity says the pressure on children and adults to look a certain way is out of control, and these assumptions have to be dispelled to combat prejudice. Well, our reporter, Sophie Solaria, has been to meet 10-year-old Shamayam Arif, her mum Taida and her auntie Fazana Javad. The family came to Luton 10 years ago to get medical help for the burns she received after a candle fell into her cot when she was 5 months old. The accident caused Shamayam to lose her hair, hands and facial features. This is her story.
She gets very shy, hides behind anyone and everything she can see. Now, when she was young, she was okay. She used to run around everywhere, nothing mattered to her, but as she's growing up, it is really getting to her now. She really feels it a lot.
You're Shamayam's mum, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're her
Auntie.
auntie. Tell me, when you first came over from Pakistan 10 years ago, why did you come and what happened?
She was burnt in her cot.
Candle fire.
Yeah, candle fire. Because it was winter and they don't have electricity and they have to put lit candles up just to get light. That fell onto the plastic table and that went onto her cot where she was sleeping. By the time they got there, her head and her arms were badly burnt.
It must have been incredibly frightening.
Very frightening, yes. I never knew that she would pull through this much. You know, it was very frightening at the beginning when she lost her hands and disfigurement and everything. And then when she came here, she knew there was hope. Affected them really, really badly because she was the first child in the family.
Yeah, because
when I was in Pakistan, I was mentally getting disturbed, because everyone kept saying negative things about her. She'll never survive, she'll die, this will happen, that'll happen, that kind of stuff. And then when she came here, when I came here, I had hope.
Shamayam, how old are you?
10.
Yeah.
So what's happening this summer?
She'll be going to Choni Girls High School after summer holidays.
And new school, are you worried about this?
She goes, I do feel I feel as if when sometimes bullying does happen, I do have that fear in me that could happen any point at high school.
What sort of support has Shamayam received so far?
She goes to a counselling group in town centre.
Therapy.
They don't share it with the parents either, what happens, how far it's gone, so they just keep it between Shamayam and themselves. They have a chat with her.
We don't chat, we play games.
It does come to mind when you just sit down and you just close your eyes and you think to yourself, what's happened? It does bring so many questions to your mind, but then we think, thanks to Allah, she can talk, she can read, write, everything she can do. She can even eat by herself. She just keeps a brave face and smile on her face all the time. She's an inspiration to other children.
I love that. Kids are the same, whatever. Well, their mum says, she goes to this group, they have a chat. We don't chat, we play games. Fantastic. You can see a picture of Shamayam on our Facebook page, facebook.com/BBC3CR, and also on Twitter @BBC3CR. We don't chat, we play games. Get it right, Mum, for goodness sakes. 08459 455 555.
Second
anybody still watch The Voice? I'm so surprised they brought it back for a second series, and then they got all upset because Ant and Dec moved the time of their show so they started at the same time. Oh no, because people haven't got video recorders. They don't have video recorders, do they? They have Sky Plus and TiVo and things like that. But people take programmes and watch them at a later time, so I wouldn't worry. The reason The Voice is getting such poor figures is, I'd imagine, because it's rubbish. I don't know. 08459 455 555. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's time for the travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Right now, and things still looking clear on all the major routes, especially if you're heading down toward London. No delays at present on the A1 or A1M. M1's looking good, as is the M40. Roadworks in Bedford, though, along the A6, St John Street, near to the junction with London Road. And the A5 at the Little Chef roundabout in Fenny Stratford, near to Milton Keynes. We've got ongoing works to add traffic lights to that roundabout. Can get quite busy at times. Those works are going to be ongoing for another couple of months still. Looking at the trains, and generally everything's doing okay. We do still have one cancellation on the boards. This one's from Watford Junction. It's the service from Euston through on to Milton Keynes Central. It's due to come in at 6:54, and that won't be running this morning. Again, a member of the train crew is unavailable. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
When they say a member of the train crew is unavailable, Adam, does that just mean that, they've just not turned up or something?
Well, conceivably, but it's more than we get in terms of data. We just get that sentence.
OK, well, thank you very much, Adam. I appreciate that. I'm going to assume it means someone's not turned up. They overslept, unless I hear otherwise. Right, 6:30, let's get the news and sport now. Here's Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Lady Thatcher's body has been moved from the Ritz in London as preparations are made for her funeral. Leading charities told BBC Three Counties Radio that more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. The government's begun a consultation on plans which may save more than £200 million from the criminal legal aid budget in both England and Wales. And comments posted on the social media website Twitter by Britain's first youth police and crime commissioner are now being investigated for possible criminal offences by the force that employs her. That's the latest news. Now let's turn to all the morning sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Kicking off with the Premier League, Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1 at Old Trafford to close the gap at the top to 12 points. We'll hear from the City manager Roberto Mancini in a moment, but first, here's what the United boss Alex Ferguson made of the game.
You don't want to lose these games. That's our second defeat at home this season, and the consistency has been fantastic. It was a good performance by us, and I wasn't disappointed in that respect. I was just disappointed the goals we gave away.
Every time that we come here, we played well. We deserve to win like today, like last year. But this is a football. They have more continuity in this championship. Instead, we lost some points.
Looking ahead to tonight's Champions League quarter-final action, Real Madrid play Galatasaray in Istanbul. Meantime, Borussia Dortmund face Malaga in Germany. Dortmund are actually the only unbeaten side left in the competition. Now, the FA expect goal line technology to be formally taken on board by the Premier League on Thursday. The name of the company, though, that will be awarded the contract is also expected to be revealed then. The FA is also planning to install a system at Wembley by August. And finally, the British number one Laura Robson lost in the first round of the Open tennis in Poland. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 7.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. This morning we're, of course, discussing the death of Baroness Thatcher, and we'll be asking, what do you think her legacy will be? And we'll hear what happened when reporter Tony Fisher broke the news to people in Luton. Also, page 3, girls. Sexist, outdated nonsense, or just a bit of fun for the lads, and indeed, some of you ladies in the 21st century. Well, the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. Our reporter Justin Dealey has been out finding what you think. Let's have a quick look at the Sun, shall we, and just see... I think there is a page 3 today, but it's not on page 3. It's a mark of respect. Let's see... on page 3, it's Thatcher. Let's keep going on and on. Thatcher up until 13. Let's see. Page 17. It's Rosie, 21, from Middlesex. And she does. Rosie was sad to hear about the death of Baroness Thatcher. She said, Maggie put the great back into Britain. In the words of US General Douglas MacArthur, a true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions. Well, that's the thoughts of Rosie, 21, from Middlesex. But what do you think about page 3? Shouldn't we get rid of it now? It's 13. It's a little bit outdated, isn't it? 08459 455 555. Oh, a little bit of meatloaf. I don't know why, but that's made me smile. I like meatloaf. I mean, he's silly, but I kind of like him.
Maybe we can talk all night, but that ain't getting us nowhere. I told you everything I possibly can. There's nothing left inside of here. And maybe you can cry all night, but that'll never change the way that I feel. The snow is really piling up outside. I wish you wouldn't make me leave here. I poured it on and I poured it out. I tried to show you just how much I care. I'm tired of words and I'm too hoarse to shout. But you've been cold to me so long. I'm crying icicles instead of tears. And all I can do is keep on telling you I want you. I want you. I need you. I need you. But there ain't no way I'm ever gonna love you. Now don't be sad. Don't be sad, 'cause 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Now don't be sad, 'cause 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I can't lie, I can't tell you that I'm something I'm not. No matter how I try, I'll never be able to give something that I just haven't got. Well, there's only one girl that I will ever love, and that was so many years ago. And though I pleaded and I begged her not to walk out that door, she packed her bags and turned right away. And she kept on telling me, she kept on telling me, she kept on telling me I want you, I want you, I need you, I need you. But there ain't no way I'm ever gonna love you. Now don't be sad, don't be sad, 'cause 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I want you, I want you, I need you, I need you. But there ain't no way I'm ever gonna love you. Now don't be sad.
So, page 3. It's the discussion we've had before, we'll have again. Sexist, outdated nonsense, or just a bit of fun for the lads? And indeed, some of the ladies. It is 2013, for goodness sakes. Well, for more than 4 decades, the Sun newspaper has graced the 3rd sheet of its tabloid with a young woman bearing nearly all. Normally has a pair of pants on, which is good. We don't want to see that. Well, now the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign, a campaign that's certainly gathering pace. Our reporter, Justin Dealey, has been asking what you think. Good morning, Justin.
Ian, it's a tough job, this one, but somebody's got to do it, haven't they?
Somebody has got to do it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to put my cards on the table.
Go on.
I think it's embarrassing.
Why?
I think it's... I just think... that kids can pick up this newspaper and it's... OK, listen to me. I think it's objectifying women. I think it's very 1970s Benny Hill. I think we're better than this. I just think we're better. And listen, I love looking at a pair of breasts. I'm not going to be honest. Of course I do. But I just think in a newspaper, I think we're better than this, Justin, in 2013. I really, really do.
See, I normally walk into the newsroom at about 5:30 and you've normally got the Sun open on page 3. I can only presume there's some great stories on page 3.
They have some very, very strong stories on page 3, Justin, that I have to furiously read.
Well, I was out yesterday getting views on this. We've certainly got a male-female divide. Right. We're going to hear from the men in just a second, but up first, let's hear from the women. And Ian, I can tell you right now, they are not happy.
Oh dear.
I just think it's a bit archaic. It's outdated. You know, I think we should just move on, and I'd want to see better things in the paper, really.
It's only a bit of fun, though, isn't it?
But fun at whose expense? I mean, it's just a pretty girl, but, you know, what does it tell us about her?
Madam, what about yourself? Page 3? Surely you must like page 3?
I think it's dreadful. It actually puts me off. Anybody I see who's reading that paper, it puts me off them.
But why?
Always has done. Because what's it got to do with the news? Nothing. It's just...
That's the whole point, though, isn't it?
Not as far as I can see. I just don't understand why anybody... I don't see that anybody would buy it because of it, and I don't understand why it's necessary at all.
That picture, the page 3, does that put you off buying the Sun?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would never go near... I wouldn't be seen dead buying the Sun. I just don't get it at all. I mean, it's not that it's disgusting, it's just, like, it's unnecessary and pointless, and I don't... But, I mean, you know, you don't have to flash it all over the place, and why aren't there blokes on there? You know, I mean, it's only the women, isn't it? There's no blokes... You know, for us to go and look at and ogle at. I've even been told by an ex of mine who there was what's that? The Chippendales. Remember, there's you know.
Yeah, I was in the Chippendales. Yeah.
And there was a friend of mine was asking if I wanted to go, and they were getting a gang up, and he went, well, you wouldn't want me to go to a strip show, so why should you go to that? And I thought, OK, I suppose you've got a point. And, you know, why is it all right for one person to look at the Sun and everybody, half the population, has nothing in there?
Linda, we're standing here looking at page 3, which is all very nice. Should it be banned? What do you think?
Yes, it should. It's just disgusting. Like,
why?
Once you open your page, it's just there. I mean, we don't have to see that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so you think it's disgusting?
It is. Very disgusting.
Is this how you get your kicks, Dealey? Is this how you get your kicks? By going around and showing page 3 to random women in town?
I had to do it for you, Ian.
I tell you why. They did have a page 7 fella for a while, didn't they?
They did, and you know what? The first person who did that was Errol from Imagination, the 1980s group. He was the first ever page 7 male model.
Is that the group that Lee Johns was also in?
That's the one. Yeah, all the hits, body talk.
But the thing, I know why they don't do it for women, because women and men are sexually excited differently. For men, it's the visuals, and for the women, it's more... I've got no idea what it is for women, but I know for men, it's the visuals.
Well, clearly, it didn't work, because page 7 didn't last for very long. No. The ladies there, they hate it, clearly not happy. Now to the men.
The chaps. Ian, I think I can guess what they said.
Yep, surprise, surprise, they like it. Take a listen to this. OK, Seth, what do you think? Page 3, should it be banned?
No, I think it's... I don't know. No, not really. It's just something we're having in the paper, isn't it?
Was it something that you read every day and look at?
Not really, yeah. Well, it's hard not to look at it every day, isn't it?
And it gives you a little smile?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of women are very angry about it. Can you understand why they are angry about it?
Because they're women. They see it They see it as a sexual sort of thing, don't they?
Just a bit of fun, then?
Bit of fun, yeah.
OK, John, page 3. Should it be banned? Are you interested?
Not really. I'd rather have a hot meal.
A hot meal as opposed to page 3?
Yes, certainly. I think my days of lusting after youngsters is over.
Is it outdated then?
Well, I don't think so, no. I think it's harmless. I mean, who does it offend, really? We came into the world naked, didn't we?
That's a very good point. I mean, if it was to be banned, would you say that is just pushing it too far? That's ridiculous.
I think so, yeah. I think we've got enough of a nanny state now.
Well, unfortunately, I can't answer this question because my girlfriend's going to listen to this radio, and personally, I think no, they shouldn't put those kind of pictures on the newspaper.
Come on, man to man here, man to man, OK? Forget about your girlfriend listening. If page 3 was to go, would you miss it, yes or no?
Yeah.
We got there in the end, thank you.
Where do you find these people? I'd rather have a hot meal.
You just go out with page 3 and you ask the question. Those were the views of people in Luton. I mean, this has been going on for years now, Ian. Every few months we get this. Is page 3 going to be banned? A new group sets up. They want to get rid of it. I don't think we're ever going to see the end of page 3.
Oh, do you not?
I don't think so.
Oh, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen soon. This campaign is growing and growing all the time. I would definitely say within the next 5 years, probably sooner, it'll be gone.
I can't see that, because when you think about the Sun newspaper, you think about page 3. Why would the Sun want to get rid of something which is, historical? Yes, it may be a bit tacky, it may be fun to some people, but when you think about the newspaper, that's one of the first things you think of. Why would they want to get rid of it when it has got so much history?
What do you think of the girls that do it, Justin?
What do I think of them? Well, personally, I wouldn't like them to be my girlfriend, put it that way, because, everyone's got to make a living. Obviously, they have. It's not my cup of tea, personally, page 3. Some people clearly like it, but put it this way, I wouldn't want that person to be my partner, because that should be for me and nobody else.
But you wouldn't mind being locked in a hotel room for a weekend? The reason I ask is because all those gentlemen that spoke, I just wonder how they would feel if it was their daughter that was doing it. And I just think, now, I tell you why maybe there's a slight difference in me, Justin. It's because I'm a dad, and so I kind of maybe see things a little bit differently. And I just think if I had a daughter, I've got a young niece, I would want her, no disrespect to Heidi, whatever this girl's name is today, I would want her to strive for something a little bit better than this. I'd want her to realise that she could achieve so much more than what these girls do, than Rosie, 21, from Middlesex.
It's quite embarrassing, isn't it? If that is somebody in your family, whether it's your daughter, whether it's your niece, if you're going to go down to your local cafe and somebody's reading the newspaper and they're looking at somebody in your family and they've got no clothes on, I would have thought that's highly embarrassing. But some people are disgusted by this. I'd like to hear from some more people this morning who find this highly offensive. What's so highly offensive about page 3 of the Sun?
Okay, well, if you're whereabouts are you this morning, Justin?
I'm in Luton at the moment, heading off to Westerning very soon. Going to be meeting Nadine Dorries, talking about Baroness Thatcher. But for the time being, it's page 3.
Well, if you see a tall, strange man with funny coloured hair waving a pair of breasts in your face, don't panic. It's probably just Justin Daly from BBC Three Counties
Just
Radio.
research.
Justin, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to you later on. 6:45. Travel News, here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And thankfully, things still looking pretty clear on the roads. No delays at present on the M40 as you head in toward London. It's all looking clear past High Wycombe and through to the end of the motorway, joining the A40. Things are moving reasonably well on the M25 as well. Traffic definitely building up, but even through the stretch with the roadworks, junction 23 to 25, it's not queuing yet. On the trains, if you're heading for the station now, it's looking pretty good for you. We have no major problems or delays reported, and on the departure boards, almost everything is running completely to time. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Right, 6:46. It's Tuesday the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Preparations are being made for Lady Thatcher's funeral, which is expected to be held next week. A leading charity has told BBC Three Counties that more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. In sport, Roberto Mancini says the Premier League title race isn't back on, despite his Man City side beating Man U last night. Coming up, we'll continue to get your reaction to the death of Lady Thatcher. Coming up before 7, we'll hear what happened when our reporter Tony Fisher broke the news to people in Luton. But before that, let's get the weather with Georgina Burnett.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. It's a bit of a cloudy day today, and then rain joins us around lunchtime, early afternoon, becoming heavier as we head to this evening. Also a brisk northeasterly wind. Quite a cold day, really, with highs of 7 degrees Celsius. Tonight it will be a cloudy night. Frost is possible in some spots. It should be largely dry, but there will be some outbreaks at first, with temperatures dipping down to 2 degrees. Tomorrow, a mixture of cloudiness and bright spells, really. Rain will be with us by the evening, and those winds increase throughout the day, with temperatures temperatures reaching 9 degrees Celsius. Thursday is looking like a bit of a windy day, but also with sunny spells and showers. Friday, a mixture of sunshine and heavy showers. But the good news is that for the weekend, we have some rather fine weather on the way, with temperatures reaching double figures, perhaps even early teens. This is Georgina Burnett for BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Georgina.
Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday between 12 and 3, I'm here with a little bit of celebrity.
I've always loved being a comedian because it's my job, so I'm going to keep doing that.
I was voted Japan's #1 male vocalist of the year, and I beat out Frank Sinatra. How's that?
Expert advice.
It does sound like it's a mechanical pain brought on by altered mechanics in your upper limb.
Your capital's protected, because I'm guessing what you don't want to do is take any risks with the capital itself.
And loads of really great music.
Nick Coffer, weekdays from 12 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555. Page 3. Is it past its sell-by date? Sexist nonsense or just a little bit of fun? Who cares?
Same bed, but it feels just a little bit bigger now. Our song on the radio, but it don't sound the same. When our friends talk about you, all it does is just tear me down. 'Cause my heart breaks a little when I hear your name. It all just sounds like ooh. Too young, too dumb to realize that I should have bought you flowers and held your hand. Should've gave you all my hours when I had the chance. Take you to every party, 'cause all you wanted to do was dance. Now my baby's dancing, but she's dancing with another man. My pride, my ego, my needs, and my selfish ways caused a good, strong woman like you to walk out my life. Now I'll never get to clean up the mess I made. Oh, and that haunts me every time I close my eyes. It all just sounds like ooh. Too young, too dumb to realize that I should have bought you flowers and held your hand. Should have gave you all my hours when I had the chance. Take you to every party, 'cause all you wanted to do was dance. Now my baby's dancing, but she's dancing with another man. Although it hurts, I'll be the first to say that I was wrong. Oh, I know I'm probably much too late to try and apologize for my mistakes, but I just want you to know I hope he buys you flowers. I hope he holds your hand, give you all his hours when he has the chance. Take you to every party, 'cause I remember how much you love to dance. Do all the things I should have done when I was your man. Do all the things I should have done when I was your man.
I'll be honest, Bruno Mars sounds like a right little so-and-so. It's no idea how to do. When I was going out with you, I should have bought you flowers and held your hand. Well, those are basics, Bruno. Should have taken you to parties. Those are basics, for goodness sakes. No wonder she dumped you. And also, it's because you're so tiny. 08459 455 555. The headlines in this morning's newspapers sum up the dilemma that was Margaret Thatcher, who's died at the age of 87 following a stroke. The Daily Mail says Britain's first female Prime Minister was the woman who saved Britain. Well, in contrast, the Daily Mirror describes her as the woman who divided a nation. Our reporter, Tony Fisher, went to Luton just after the news broke.
I feel quite sad about that, really.
Yeah, so do I must admit. I know she had her bad faults, but on the whole, I think she did good for the country.
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah, I quite liked her when she was Prime Minister anyway.
I think something drastic had to be done at that time of that period, so and she'd done it. She's unpopular, but I think it's probably right. I think she was a one-off, really.
Yeah.
She's just died.
Has she really? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, actually, because I liked her.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Why?
I think she was a strong Prime Minister, better than the one we got now.
It's hard to say what I think about that woman, she did a bit, I suppose. I was glad to see the coal miners coming out of the coal mines because it didn't do the lungs any good. But that place has never done any good since, has it? They've never created work for them up there again, as far as I can see.
Excuse me, sorry to bother you. I'm from BBC Three Counties Radio. Can I ask you about Margaret Thatcher? She's just died.
Yeah, we heard, yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah, we heard it on the radio, on the television before we came out. Yeah, the Iron Lady.
Were you a supporter or?
Oh yeah.
When she was in office, I think she made us feel safe, and
yeah, she was great.
we trusted her.
Yeah.
Very sad. Sad for her family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think she did good for the country?
Oh yeah, definitely. Broke the bloody unions.
I believe Margaret Thatcher was a lady of many honourable. She was obviously best known as the Iron Lady, but I think she done very good for the country. She set standards, especially for the British UK citizens, for us and abroad. Obviously, she brought in the true, real culture of the British society, of what we stand for and what we are best for. Obviously, she was very strict with the migration.
She was a very nice lady, yeah. Oh, I am very sorry about that.
Yeah, sad news here, very, very sad news here. Okay. I hope, I pray for that he go to heaven. I pray here.
Well, that was Tony Fisher speaking to residents of Luton about the passing of Margaret Thatcher. 08459 455 555. What do you think her legacy will be? Good and bad. Let's not be rude. I don't want... let's not be jumping on an old woman's grave, for goodness sakes. I know some of you hate her, but I'm keen to get your opinions. Either side of the story, what will her legacy be to you? 08459 455 555.
You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go. Oh no. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. Hello,
Gotta love them Beatles. Get this, there are some people out there who don't like the Beatles. What on earth is going on with you? Good morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots to talk about this morning, lots I'd like to get your opinion on. We're discussing page 3. Is it old hat? 08459 455 555. And what do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be? What did she mean to you? Facebook.com/BBC 3CR. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things are definitely starting to slow, especially the M25 anti-clockwise. It's now busy as you enter the roadworks section at junction 25. Also heavy further round anti-clockwise from the M1 to the A404 junction 21 to 18, and from 17 at Maple Cross through to 15 at the M4. Also starting to look quite slow on the A1 as you head in toward London. We had a call in from Pierre, who said it's looking slow from Apex Corner through to Mill Hill Circus, and looking at the speed sensors, it is. It's not too bad, not too much of a queue yet, but it's definitely all slowing down. Meanwhile, the trains, at least, are still looking pretty good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. What will Margaret Thatcher's legacy be? What did she mean to you? 08459 455 555. Here's the news with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, the headlines. Margaret Thatcher's body moved. Charity tackles prejudice around disfigurement, and flights which are set to run into more turbulence in future.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Preparations are being made for Lady Thatcher's funeral, which is expected to be held next week. Overnight, an undertaker's van left the Rich Hotel in central London, where the former Prime Minister was staying when she had a stroke and died yesterday. Locally, Peter Lilly, the Conservative MP for Hitchin and Harpenden, was a member of Margaret Thatcher's cabinet. He says it's the end of an era.
She is the sort of person whose memory will never fade, because she was so dynamic, so energetic, so decisive, that she made an immense impression on anyone who worked with her or for her.
Turning to other news now, and a leading charities told BBC Three Counties that more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. Changing faces helps people cope with facial disfigurement. They say there's too much pressure on people to look perfect. Well, 10-year-old Shamaya Marif from Luton suffered third-degree burns to her skin after a candle fell into her cot when she was only 5 months old. Her mother Tida and her auntie Fazana Javid say Shamayams can do most things that other people her age can do.
It does bring so many questions to your mind, but then we think, thanks to Allah, she can talk, she can read, write, everything she can do. She can even eat by herself. She just keeps a brave face and smile on her face all the time.
And we'll be hearing more on this story with Iain Lee here on BBC Three Counties Radio straight after this bulletin. Scientists studying climate change are predicting that flights across the North Atlantic may run into more turbulence in future. Researchers at Reading University say they expect the speed and instability of winds at high altitude to increase turbulence by between 10 and 40% by 2050. They believe the change, though, won't affect the safety of flying. The government's beginning a consultation on plans designed to save more than £200 million from the criminal legal aid budget. The announcement follows the introduction last week of measures to cut a bigger sum from the budget for civil cases. And a white lion's been born at the Paradise Wildlife Park in Hertfordshire. She's one of only 300 white lions in the world. Alex Smale from the park at Broxbourne says at this age she's very easy to handle.
She's very calm, actually. She's very steady as a cub, so she's not trying to hurt you at any point. Quite often, actually, she'd fall asleep on your lap while you're checking her over, that kind of thing, so she's really that relaxed.
Moving on to sport now, Roberto Mancini says the Premier League title race isn't back on. That's despite his Manchester City side beating Manchester United last night 2-1 at Old Trafford. That now reduces United's lead to 12 points. Weather then, and we're going to have some showery outbreaks during the day, but they'll be mainly light. Little cooler than yesterday though, temperatures of 7 degrees Celsius, 45 in Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Thank you, Serena. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. 3 minutes past 7. It's Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm guessing. Can I look out the window? Yeah. It's kind of bright. These mornings are getting brighter. I think I quite like it. I don't like the light evenings. The light evenings confuse me. Because I go to bed... I was in bed last night, 7:15. Haven't got curtains in my room, and it was... Oh, dear. Anyway... Lots coming up on the show this morning, lots that I know you'll like to have your say on, including tributes continue to be paid across beds, hearts and bucks to Lady Thatcher after her death at the age of 87. What do you think will be her legacy? 08459 455 555. A leading national charity has told BBC Three Counties that there is still a social stigma attached to people who've been disfigured. We'll hear the story of one Luton girl who lost her hair and facial features in a fire when she was a baby. 81333, start your text 3CR, and also... The Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. Now, be honest, sexist, outdated nonsense, or just a little bit of fun? Put my cards on the table. I think it's terrible. And, they're pretty young women and it's nice to look at. But in a newspaper, I think it embarrasses us as a nation. What do you think? 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Facebook.com/BBC3CR, or you can send me a text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Put your name on, please. Otherwise, it won't get read out.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
You can also send me an email as well if you'd like, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. I should point out the spelling because I'm sure there's another Iain Lee who spells his name incorrectly at the BBC, getting inundated with emails about things happening in Bedford and Milton Keynes. It's ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. Now, Lady Thatcher's body has been moved from the Ritz in London as preparations are made for her funeral. The former Prime Minister had been staying at the hotel when she suffered a stroke and died yesterday. Her funeral is expected to take place with full military honours at St Paul's Cathedral in London next week. One of Lady Thatcher's defining moments was the coal mining strike in the 80s, and it changed industrial relations in Britain forever. Nick Jones was the BBC's industry correspondent during the strike and joins me now. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Ian.
Nick, how will you remember Margaret Thatcher?
Well, I think there's no doubt about it that when you heard and have heard those clips about the ladies not for turning, she wasn't going to commit any U-turns. That was 1980. Well, when she took on the miners in 1984, she did not undergo any U-turn whatsoever. She took on Arthur Scargill, who was the mine workers' leader, and it became a trial of strength. It was a strike which lasted for a year, but which, as you rightly say, Ian, changed the face of British industry because, looking back, we've lost the coal industry, and you have to remember that the miners of the 80s, they were the top of the earnings league in this country, earning even more than the car workers or whatever. No, they were the king of the road, and the miners were the shock troops of the British industrial scene. And their defeat and the defeat of the trade union movement in Britain, I think that changed the face of British industry.
Well, you witnessed the battle between Thatcher and Scargill firsthand. What do you recall about that?
Well, what I recall was the fact that both of them were well matched because, you see, Arthur Scargill was somebody who was determined to take on Thatcher, and he took the mine workers through that dispute week after week after week, and he could somehow distance himself from the considerable hardship within the mining community, in the communities, in the villages, in the pit villages, because he knew, that he wanted the strike to continue. He still believed he could defeat her. Margaret Thatcher, equally, she could somehow insulate herself from the tremendous cost of her government. You have to remember, that unemployment had risen from 1 million to 3 million in the first 3 years of her premiership because of the closures and the winding down of the nationalised industries. So it was a very divisive time. But these two people, Thatcher and Scargill, they were well matched. They were going to go the distance.
You mentioned the D word, divisive, and she was divisive, and we're seeing this now with some of the extreme reactions about her death. How divisive at the time was she?
Oh, extremely divisive, because, of course, she was taking on the vested interests that had previously been so powerful. I mean, if we just think of the coal industry, which I reported, that was dominant, a dominant industry. It employed 180,000 people. They were the top of the earnings league in the country. And of course, when she came in determined to close the pits, then they had this struggle between the miners and the government. But of course, it became highly political. And of course, in the end, there was a political decision by the government that they were going to go for what was called the dash for gas. We produce much of our electricity now through gas burning. And of course, it is that change, that political decision to make that change, which changed the face of the country. And then you have to compare and contrast, you see, with the fact that the trade unions, which were so powerful, with 12 million members, now less than 6 million members, they were completely overtaken by things like the Big Bang in 1986, when the City of London took off and the financial sector became so important in this country.
Nick, very quickly, when you met her and interviewed her, how intimidating was she? You're a journalist, you're approaching her. Was she intimidating?
She most certainly was, but I can actually say that I interviewed her back in 1975 when she was standing for the Tory leadership, and I sat next to her on a settee at a conference hotel, knee to knee. It was the sort of informality that was never to be repeated, because she was a very intimidating lady, and I think most journalists approached her with trepidation.
I'm sure they did. Nick Jones, who was the BBC's industry correspondent during the miners' strike in the 80s. Thank you very much indeed. Well, what do you think Thatcher's legacy will be? What did she mean to you? And I am keen to get both sides of the story, because I know that she was, as we've said there, very divisive, and I don't like all this celebrating the fact that someone's dead. I think that's a little bit, you've got to remember she was someone's mum. Yes, it was only Mark Thatcher's mum, but she's a grandmother. I just think I don't like all this people bouncing up and down, saluting the fact that she's dead. But she was very divisive, and there will be people who have strong views either way. So, what's your view on Margaret Thatcher? What will her legacy be, in your opinion? 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Come and speak your mind. Don't be rude. I'm not going to allow anyone to come on and be rude about an old woman that's just passed away. That's not how we do it here. But I do want to get your opinions, either side of the story. 08459 455 555.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Talking about page 3. I've just seen the text I have to read out. Thanks, guys. Is it outdated? We'll be talking later on. The Girl Guides movement has got involved and says, really, do we need this anymore? And for a long time I've kind of thought, and I think that, is it since I've become a dad? It might have been a little bit earlier. I don't know. I just think it's a little bit... I think it's so old-fashioned and outdated, and we don't need it. Tim has texted him. You have to think about the target audience. In that market sector, it's what sets it apart from its competition. And I like breasts, he says. He's put something a little bit rude. And then he's done a colon, a dash, and a closed bracket. Oh, it looks like a smiley face. That's clever, isn't it? Punctuation for the nation. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Let's have a look at the front pages, but I think you can guess what it's all going to be. I don't think there's one that does anything different. The Independent. Margaret Thatcher, the woman who changed Britain. That's all we're going to get, really, isn't it? Is the Times. The Times is a special edition. Does anyone collect these special editions? The Mail has a Margaret Thatcher pull-out and keep souvenir. The Times, the First Lady. The death of Baroness Thatcher yesterday prompted an outpouring of admiration, some criticism, and a fresh debate over her legacy. Well, the criticism, if you've seen the front page of the Socialist Worker this morning, I thought it was a step too far. Listen, come on, guys. You could have done yourself a little... you could have made yourself look a little bit better than you did by doing that front page, Socialist Worker. The Daily Telegraph, Margaret Thatcher, 1925 to 2013. The Guardian, she became harder than hard. Hugo Young and Margaret Thatcher. Days before he died in 2003, Guardian columnist and Thatcher biographer wrote an epitaph for the Prime Minister who changed Britain forever. And then it goes into detail on that. The Daily Mail, the woman who saved Britain. Special tribute edition. 25 pages of news plus 12-page souvenir pull-out. Is that a little bit too much? I do wonder. And then page 6 and 7, the vile screech of hatred. Champagne in the streets, student union cheers and foul internet taunts. She stood up for ordinary Britons. That's why the left loathe her. Daily Mail, thank you. The Daily Express. Farewell, Iron Lady, special commemorative edition. Margaret Thatcher dies, age 87, after suffering a stroke. We've lost a great leader and a great Britain. The Sun, Maggie dead in bed at Ritz. Margaret Thatcher, 1925 to 2013. And if we go, we're discussing page 3. If we go to page 3, which is on now page 17, there's a mark of respect. They've kept the knockers off of page 3. It's Rosie, 21, from Middlesex. Rosie was sad to hear about the death of Baroness Thatcher. She said, Maggie put the great back into Britain. In the words of US General Douglas MacArthur, a true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions. Tony's from Harlow. Morning, Tony.
Hi, Ian.
Tony, what do you think Thatcher's legacy will be?
Well, the main one she done for me was allowing me to buy my house, which I'm very grateful for, and also the Falklands. I think if any other Prime Minister had been in, we'd have dithered about so long that they would have taken it off of us. But I think with Maggie...
How did buying your house change your life? Because if I'm completely honest, my mum and dad bought their council house, and it transformed out. I probably wouldn't be here now if they hadn't have bought their council house.
Well, I've finished my mortgage now, and that's a load off my back. And it was through Margaret Thatcher, and I think it was 1980 or something like that allowed me to do it. And you can see light at the end of the tunnel. If you've got a rented house, there's no end to it. But with owning your house, and it makes you do things to it because it's yours.
Do you remember? I don't know if they still do this in council houses. I mean, I lived in the council estate in Slough, and before we bought our house, there would be a day when the council would come round and paint everybody's door the same dark green. Do you remember that? They'd come and do they come and paint the door. They come and paint the doors and the windows, and everybody would get exactly the same colour at front door.
I can imagine Arlo then. They would have come and took your door, and it would be missing for ages. You'd have to go out and get another one.
There's a possibility. Tony, thank you for that. Do you remember that? Maybe they still do it, I don't know. Lived in a council estate, Britwell estate in Slough. And they would come, you get maybe once a year, once every 2 years, the council would come round and paint your door, and everybody would get the same front colour door. 08459 455 555 715. Here's the travel news, Adam Glynn.
Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
If you're commuting by rail this morning, things are looking reasonably good. We have no issues on the departure boards. I think almost everything's completely on time. On the roads, it's an average morning. It's looking reasonably good on most roads. M1 starting to slow southbound between the Luton Airport Spur at junction 10 and junction 9 for the A5 at Redbourne. If you're using the A1 to get in toward London, around Boreham Wood, it's looking busy between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. Anti-clockwise M25, quite heavy in a few patches. First off at Enfield as you come into the roadwork section at junction 25. Then once you're through there, from the M1 to Chorleywood, junction 21 to 18, and then approaching the M40. So from junction 17 at Maple Cross through to 15 at the M4. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Right, 7:16. It's Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Politicians from the Commons and the Lords are preparing to debate the legacy of Margaret Thatcher. Parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. In sport, Roberto Mancini says the Premier League title race isn't back on, despite his Manchester City side beating Manchester United last night. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. Showery outbreaks during the day. Most of these will be light. Feeling chilly in the easterly breeze. Maximum temperature is 7 degrees. Coming up, a leading national charity has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a social stigma attached to people who've been disfigured. Before 7:30, we'll hear the story of one Luton girl who lost her hair and facial features in a fire when she was a baby.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
BBC Introducing.
BBC Introducing is your chance to hear unsigned, undiscovered and under-the-radar music on BBC Three Counties Radio. We showcase the best emerging talent from across beds, hearts and bucks, with live sessions and exclusive recordings. And this Saturday, we're taking BBC Introducing to the Hat Factory in Luton for a free night of live music. Tune in or come down and discover music you never knew existed. BBC Introducing this Saturday night from 8 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Changing Faces, a leading charity which supports people who have been disfigured, has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a negative perception attached to people who look different to the norm. The charity says the pressure on children and adults to look a certain way is out of control, and these assumptions have to be dispelled to combat prejudice. Well, our reporter Sophie Soleri has been to meet 10-year-old Shemaya Marif, her mum Taida and her auntie Fazana Javed. The family came to Luton 10 years ago to get medical help for the burns she received after a candle fell into her cot when she was 5 months old. The accident caused Shemaya to lose her hair, hands and facial features.
She gets very shy, hides behind anyone and everything she can see. Now, when she was young, she was okay. She used to run around everywhere, nothing mattered to her, but as she's growing up, it is really getting to her now. She really feels it a lot.
You're Shemaim's mum, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're her auntie. Tell me, when you first came over from Pakistan 10 years ago, why did you come and what happened?
She was burnt in her cot.
Candle fire?
Yeah, candle fire. Because it was winter and they don't have electricity and they have to put lit candles up just to get light. That fell onto the plastic table and that went onto her cot where she was sleeping. By the time they got there, her head and her arms were badly burnt.
It must have been incredibly frightening.
Very frightening, yes. I never knew that she would pull through this much. You know, it was very frightening at the beginning when she lost her hands and disfigurement and everything. And then when she came here, she knew there was hope. It affected them really, really badly because she was the first child in the family.
Yeah,
It was when I was in Pakistan, I was mentally getting disturbed, because everyone kept saying negative things about her. She'll never survive, she'll die, this will happen, that'll happen, and that kind of stuff. And then when she came here, when I came here, I had hope.
Shemaim, how old are you?
10.
Yeah. So what's happening this summer?
She'll be going to Choni Girls High School after summer holidays.
And new school, are you worried about this?
She goes, I do feel I feel as if when sometimes bullying does happen, I do have that fear in me that could happen any point at high school.
What sort of support has Shemaim received so far?
She goes to a counselling group in Town Centre.
Therapy.
They don't share it with the parents either, what happens, how far it's gone, so they just keep it between Shemaim and themselves. They have a chat with her.
We don't chat, we play games.
It does come to mind when you just sit down and you just close your eyes and you think to yourself, what's happened? It does bring so many questions to your mind, but then we think, thanks to Allah, she can talk, she can read, write, everything she can do. She can even eat by herself. She just keeps a brave face and smile on her face all the time. She's an inspiration to other children.
Yeah, we don't talk, Mum, we play games. I love that bit. That was Sophie Soleri speaking to 10-year-old Shemaya Arif and her mum and her auntie. Well, joined now by Deborah Mechanic, the Changing Faces Officer for the East and South East. Morning, Deborah.
Good morning.
Deborah, we're within a second. I just want to speak first of all to 16-year-old Lucas Hayward, who has frontal nasal craniofacial dysplasia. Morning, Lucas.
Good morning.
Lucas, it's a lot of words, and I probably said them wrong. Explain exactly what that condition is.
Well, it's called frontal nasal craniofacial dysplasia. The frontal part means the front of my face. Nasal means nose. Craniofacial means my lopsided shape of my face, and dysplasia just means that it's not been formed properly.
And how does this affect you, Lucas?
Well, it makes my nose wider and flatter than most people's, and my face is lopsided.
Mm. And how has that affected you in your life?
In my life, it's affected me more than the actual condition itself.
Right.
From the very start of primary school, I've been severely bullied for the way that I look. So I was often teased, called names like pig nose, elephant man, and I was kicked and punched and spat on.
Oh dear, this isn't... I'm kind of shocked by that, and that happened from primary school. Does it happen now? I'd like to think that kind of 15, 16 young people are a little bit more aware.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't happen now.
Right, okay.
I think I'm a bit older than. Well, I know I'm a bit older than I was then, so I can. People don't try to kick and punch me.
Good. Well, that's some kind of thing. And when you were a young lad, and this was happening at primary school, I guess you must have felt rotten.
I did. It did make me feel very horrible. I was struggling to do any work in school because my self-confidence had plummeted, and I was always feeling nervous about the other students in the class and feeling very self-conscious about everything that I did.
And how did you get your self-confidence back? You sound like a very self-confident young man now. What changed?
Well, it was at the end of primary school. What happened was, having had enough in Year 5, I just walked out of primary school because I couldn't take any more bullying. I'd had it for the entire time in my primary school. So as soon as that happened, my parents realised that they desperately needed someone else to get involved. And that was when we went to Changing Faces for help and advice. And they gave my parents and myself the tools and advice to cope with the reactions and how they affected me.
Give me a couple of those tools, a couple of things they said that made a positive impact in your life.
It wasn't specifically, for me, individual things that they did. For me, it was being able to go to them and see that there were many other people with disfigurements who were there to help you, and that they were the ones that gave you the techniques and told you how to cope with the bullying and how to get over it and stuff like that.
Lucas, stay there. I speak to Deborah now from Changing Faces. Morning, Deborah.
Good morning.
Deborah, if a young man like Lucas or whoever comes in to see you, what do you do to help give them the self-confidence and change their lives in a positive way?
Right. Well, there are several things that Changing Faces does. One of the things we do have counsellors who work with individuals, either children and their parents or carers, with adults one-to-one. So we work with them, as I said, either in person or perhaps over the telephone, via email, many different ways. We also go in and we will talk to teachers. We will talk to students. I go in, but for instance, I've gone in and spoken to assemblies of children of all different ages, trying to raise awareness of the issues and just make people more aware of the assumptions they make, of the things that happen, with around people who have a disfigurement. So it's a combination of, one-to-one support. We also do workshops. I mean, Lucas referred to, finding out from other people. So we have workshops where we have groups of people, either youngsters or adults, who can, discuss the situation with others. We have Facebook pages and Twitter and things like that now. So, there are many different sort of areas of support that we provide.
Lucas, can I ask you a question? I'm a dad. I've got a 3-year-old boy, and I'm hoping that I'm bringing him up to be loving and accepting of everybody, whatever difference they may have. But he's a 3-year-old boy, and he spots obvious physical differences in people. If I was walking down the street with him and he went, "Look, Daddy, that man's got a strange face," as a 3-year-old might do because they don't kind of know the social norms, what would be the right reaction for me? Would it be to kind of just grab him and hurry on and say, "Come on, darling, don't mention that"? Would it be for me to stop and explain? What would? This is a tough question, I know, and maybe you don't know the answer. But what would be the right thing for me as a dad to do?
I definitely say stop and explain.
Right.
Because then you're educating your child in as of the right social lines, as it were, and telling them not to be so forthcoming with pointing out facial disfigurements or other disfigurements, and learning to accept people more.
If I could just
yes, please, Deborah.
Interject there. I was actually at a hospital once with a stand, and I had posters up, and in fact I think Lucas's poster was up, but a little boy came along with his mom, and he started pointing at the posters, and he was obviously quite taken aback by some of them, a little bit scared. And the mother was just fantastic. She said to him, she said, "It's okay." She said, "This is someone, they're no different than you or I." I said, "They were just, born with a slightly different looking face." And she just, the way she explained it was, calm. It was just fantastic.
And that's where we need to start. This is why I asked, because this is where we need to start, isn't it? Is with our young children, so that they are brought up not thinking, "Oh, that's weird," just accepting everybody for what they are.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, it's a fairly natural reaction to be scared sometimes, because, and being scared could be due to a whole load of reasons. People might not know what to say. They don't know how to react, or some people might even think the condition is catching. There are all sorts of reasons. But I think if people are made to understand, what it is, then they can deal with it.
Listen, I really appreciate your time. That was Deborah Mechanic, Changing Faces Officer for the East and South East, and 16-year-old Lucas Hayward. If you're interested in this, if this affects you or touches you in any way, you can Google Changing Faces, or you can give their helpline a call, 0845 4500 275, 0845 4500 275. We'll put that phone number up on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/BBC 3CR. 7:30. Travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And we start with a look at the trains. London Midland reporting delays of up to 15 minutes between Leighton Buzzard and Tring. They've got a signalling problem, which means trains are running through the area at a reduced speed, and they think it's going to continue until about 8:30. So your train could be affected if it has to go between Leighton Buzzard and Tring. On the M25, anti-clockwise, it's still heavy from the M1 to Chorleywood, junction 21 to 18, though the M1 itself not looking too bad in toward London or northbound. Anti-clockwise further round from Maple Cross to the M4 is looking slow, and if you're heading into London on the A1, still a bit of a queue southbound through Boreham Wood. It's building up between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thanks very much. Nearly 7:31. Here's the news and sport now with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Politicians from the Commons and the Lords are preparing to debate the legacy of Margaret Thatcher. We'll be hearing from Nadine Dorries, the Conservative MP for Mid Bedfordshire, shortly. She'll be giving her views on the former Prime Minister. Parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. Scientists studying climate change are predicting that flights across the North Atlantic may run into more turbulence in the future, and the government's beginning a consultation on plans designed to save more than £200 million from the criminal legal aid budget. That's the news. Now let's move on to all the morning sport.
Beds, Herts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So in the Premier League, Manchester City beat Manchester United last night 2-1 at Old Trafford. That now closes the gap at the top to 12 points. We'll hear from the City manager Roberto Mancini in just a moment, but first, here's what the United boss Sir Alex Ferguson made of the match.
You don't want to lose these games. That's our second defeat at home this season, and the consistency has been fantastic. It was a good performance by us, and I wasn't disappointed in that respect. I was just disappointed the goals we gave away.
Every time that we come here, we played well. We deserve to win like today, like last year. But this is a football. They have more continuity in this championship. Instead, we lost some points.
Let's have a look at tonight's action then. In Champions League quarter-final action, Real Madrid played Galatasaray in Istanbul. Meantime, Borussia Dortmund face Malaga in Germany. Dortmund are actually the only unbeaten side left in the competition. Elsewhere, the FA expect goal line technology to be formally taken on board by the Premier League on Thursday. The name of the company that'll be awarded the contract's also expected to be unveiled. The FA is also planning to install a system at Wembley by August. And the British number one Laura Robson lost in the first round of the Open Tennis in Poland. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 8.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
We really are covering such a broad spectrum of subjects. This is why I love doing this job. We're ticking every box, and it's we're jumping all over the place, and hopefully it doesn't sound too nonsensical to you. Coming up later, page 3, girls. Is it sexist, outdated nonsense, or just a little bit of fun? Well, the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. I'll be speaking to a woman from the campaign and a former glamour model from Hertfordshire to see what they think. You can have your say as well. 08459 455 555. When you open page 3, do you think, oh dear, for goodness sakes, this is a load of old... It's not the 1970s anymore. Or do you think, yes, get in there, look at that. Wow. Well, the headlines in this morning... Sorry, I've just had a custard cream. That's why I sound a bit clarty. I do apologise. The headlines in this morning's newspapers sum up the dilemma that was Margaret Thatcher, who's died at the age of 87 following a stroke. The Daily Mail says Britain's first female Prime Minister was the woman who saved Britain. Well, in contrast, the Daily Mirror describes her as the woman who divided a nation. Our reporter, Tony Fisher, asked people in Harpenden how she would be remembered.
Oh, I thought she was the most fantastic woman. Absolutely amazing. Quite. I mean, I'm only a few years younger than her, and she really made history as far as I was concerned. Obviously, she became very popular because of the Falklands. You know, that they rose a lot. And I can quite understand that some of the men in her cabinet, you know, couldn't put up with it any longer. But she certainly was the Iron Lady.
She'll be remembered because of the Falklands, of course. I think she'll be remembered as a strong leader too. Strong lady. Perhaps her handbag.
Oh, the swipe. Yeah. No.
She was a very important figure in the 20th century British politics.
Changed history?
Yes, she did.
Your reflections on how do you think she'll be remembered?
Probably in my age group, well... but otherwise probably not. I know a lot of people didn't agree with her, but she was certainly a force to be reckoned with. Something we need now.
I think some people thought she was absolutely great and other people didn't like her.
What do you think she did well?
Well, she sorted out the trade unions. I thought she was brilliant.
She did her best to sort out the mess that had been left by the previous Labour government.
What sort of things did she do well, do you think?
Well, she partially sorted out the unions, and she liberated part of the banking system, which was undone somewhat later by the subsequent Labour governments.
I reckon she's one of the best Prime Ministers we've ever had. Really choked about it. Yeah. No, I thought she was brilliant. Absolute brilliant. Especially with the Falklands and that. When they other ministers said, or commanders said it wouldn't come off, but she done it.
She was something that Britain could be proud of, or was proud of?
Oh, cross, yeah. She got rid of communism, didn't she? With old Reagan and... what's his name now? I think she's done this country proud, really proud.
Well, that was Tony Fisher speaking to some people in Harpenden yesterday. We sent out our reporter, Justin Dealey, to meet the independent MP for Mid-Beds, Nadine Dorris, this morning. Justin, did you manage to speak to her?
I did indeed. We have been talking about Lady Thatcher's legacy on the programme this morning. I spoke to Nadine around 20 minutes ago, and this is what she had to say.
Gosh, well, I think there are actually, she's a Prime Minister, or was a Prime Minister. There is so much to say about her. It's pretty hard to distill it all down into a few words, but I think she left a number of legacies. I think one of the most important ones, two of the most important ones for me, were in 1975, Margaret Thatcher was at the place where most feminists are trying to get to. And I can remember very clearly people saying to her, what's it like to be the first woman Prime Minister? And her just moving on past that question to talk about her father quite often, actually. And I always thought that was quite amazing, that she felt that she was opposed to all women's shortlists, opposed to measures that would demean women but give women priority. And because what she was very clearly demonstrating was, if you have the ability and if you have the tenacity, you can do anything. And I think that was quite amazing, really. And so that's one legacy that I think she's left behind. And the other is her very clear statements that you can't spend what you don't have, you can't pay people what they haven't earned, and you can't use force or unions or intemperate measures to get what you want. That actually it's all about the simple rules of life which achieve a stable economy and a stable country. And so I think they are the most important thing she's left behind. You have to remember what she inherited. She came into government after 20 years, 2 decades of union domination, of people fleeing the country to work abroad, of massive inflation, of high unemployment, and of the world regarding us as a sick man of Europe and not wanting to do business with us. We had massive IMF loans that actually landed in the country, the IMF, to almost bankrupt us, and that's what she inherited. So I suppose her legacy really, truly is taking us from that position to an economic powerhouse.
She clearly inspired you. I've heard this story about her telling you off. Is this true?
Yeah, no, it's very true, actually. And in fact, my daughter reminded me last night, she was actually talking to my daughter at the time when she did it. It was a gathering about 3 years ago. And I dashed in late. My daughter got in early, and she was talking. The funny thing was, she'd never met my daughter, but she knew exactly who she was. Now, at the time, Margaret Thatcher would have been 84, 85. This is only 3 years ago. And so she knew exactly who Jenny was. She was talking to her, and she said, oh, you're Nadine's daughter. And I dashed in the room, and she looked up and she pointed at me, and she went, and you, young lady, are late. And I was 52, and I felt about 5, which is just quite uncanny, really.
Brilliant. There you go, the words of Nadine Dorries talking to me earlier this morning. Iain, there's more to come from Nadine after 8 o'clock this morning. She's got some strong words to say about some of the nasty comments that we've seen about Lady Thatcher since yesterday afternoon. So more to come from Nadine on your show after 8 o'clock.
Yes, I don't like the nastiness, and there has been some nasty stuff. I never celebrate the death of someone. I didn't celebrate when Osama bin Laden died, not to compare these two, but I never celebrate when someone dies. I can understand why people didn't like her, and I think it's fine to express that.
Yep.
But express it in a polite way. None of this nastiness. I think we're better than that, aren't we?
That's the thing. I think, as a nation now, if you look at some of these social networking sites, you can
Twitter,
see
Facebook, MySpace.
You can see them straight away. You go back years ago, people may have said that to you in the street, could have said it to you in your home or down the pub. Now, of course, these comments are out there, and I have to say, what I've seen since yesterday afternoon, some of those comments, not all of them, of course, but some of them, I was quite shocked by them because they were so graphic in, as you say, celebrating the death of somebody.
And listen, and this morning, it's not. We're not doing it's not a Thatcher tribute this morning. If you want to come on and say, well, do you know what? I didn't like her. She ruined my life. I lost my. You can come on and say that, but just don't. Don't come around and do a little dance because an old woman has died. I think we're better than that as a nation. Justin, thank you very much. Speak to you later on. 08459 455 555, and you can come on and have your say. Completely have your say. I don't think this is we're doing a double thumbs up. Hey, wasn't Margaret Thatcher brilliant? Because she did divide people. And lots of people do have strong views. But don't come on and let off fireworks and cheer as some people are doing. I just think we're better than that, aren't we? We're cleverer than that. 08459 455 555. David's in Luton. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning.
David, what's your take on Margaret Thatcher? What will her legacy be?
Very divisive.
Yes?
She tortured the manufacturing industry of this land, together with the transport industry. We were once the pride of the world with operating buses and trains. No longer. We now are very divisive, and she attacked the tradesmen and craftsmen of this land, and, as I repeat myself, destroyed totally our manufacturing base.
Well, she did break up the unions and remove a lot of power from them. There are some people, David, that might argue that was a good thing, and perhaps in the 70s the unions had too much power.
Well, they may have done, but you do understand that when people are trying to do a professional job and a trades job, that they do need proper support and that they need proper holidays, and not like as it is today, we are the slave trade of the world now.
Well, David, stay there because Peter's in Stopsley. I think Peter might have a slightly different view. Peter, what do you think Thatcher's legacy will be?
Well, I myself, Ian, think apart from Winston Churchill, she was the best Prime Minister this country has ever produced.
In what way? What did she do that you think was so special?
Well, if you think about it, in a lot of these people, right, that are putting these comments across here weren't around in the 60s and 70s to watch when unions tried to take over this country. 90% of the car names manufacturers in this country went to the wall under Labour governments and caused by union strikes backed by the communists. And, you know, they didn't like it when Margaret Thatcher came in and fought these people to keep this country up where it belongs. And this war broke out with Arthur Scargill, the same chestnut with the coal miners comes round again and again. But, you know, all these miners that were out on strike under Arthur Scargill's command, they were the ones that were suffering in the 1970s. Arthur Scargill was still living high on a hog. It didn't matter to him. All his war was against was he wanted to control this country. Well, I'm sorry that when you go to vote, you vote for a government that comes and rules from Parliament in London, not from some union lobster.
Peter, let me put that to David. David, what do you make of what Peter was saying there?
Well, I don't altogether agree with the attack on the trade unions. The trade unions are there to put for instance, let's take the medical profession. Every practicing doctor, I believe, belongs to the BMA. You have to have a representation when you're in a position, any position, you have to have representation. You can't represent yourself. And we're going through exactly the same today. No, we're not. Removal of the legal aid.
Peter, you're saying we're not going through the same thing today?
No, we're not. And again, it goes back to the 1970s. But any of the car factories and companies in this country, it was a closed shop. If you didn't join a union, they wouldn't let you work there, or you were blacked and this and that and the other. It wasn't. The unions were even controlled you working at these places. They wanted it all their way, and if you didn't like it, you weren't. They wouldn't even have you on there, especially Vauxhall. You could either join one union or the other. If you didn't join it, they wouldn't make you work there.
Peter, we have to end it there. Thank you, Peter in Stopsley, David in Luton. There you go, perfect example of how divisive Thatcher was. 08459 455 555. What will be Margaret Thatcher's legacy? 7:45. Calm down. Travel news, Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
At ease, sir. The M1 southbound. One lane's blocked at present. A broken down lorry. It's at junction 10A for the A1081 and it's on the roundabout there. Traffic thankfully seems to be getting past it okay. It's looking reasonably good on the CCTV cameras around there. On the main carriageway of the M1 southbound, it is slow from junction 10 at the Luton Airport Spur through to 9 at Redbourne. A1M is starting to look quite busy towards Stevenage, mainly on the southbound side coming from Hitchin. M25 anti-clockwise, slow from the M1 to Chorleywood, junction 21 to 18. Then after a little bit of a reprieve, it gets busy from Maple Cross through to the M4, and that section's looking particularly slow this morning. The M40's looking fine, but if you're heading further into London, once you get past Uxbridge and down the A40, there are a lot of queues. There was a broken down car at the Hanger Lane underpass earlier this morning, and that means the A40's looking very busy, and the North Circular Road's looking very busy as a result of that too. On the trains, London Midland, it's 15 minutes delays still between Leighton Buzzard and Tring because of a signalling problem. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Adam. Right, it's nearly 7:47. It's Tuesday the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. The funeral of Lady Thatcher will take place in the middle of next week. Parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. And in sport, Premier League leaders Manchester United lost 2-1 to arch-rivals Manchester City at Old Trafford last night. Coming up before 8 o'clock, we'll be talking page 3 girls. Is it sexist, outdated nonsense, or is it just a little bit of harmless fun? Well, the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. I'll be speaking to someone from the campaign, as well as a former glamour model from Hertfordshire, to see what they both think. Time now to get the latest weather. Here's Georgina Burnett.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Bit of a cloudy day today. We'll have some rain joining us around lunchtime, early afternoon, and then it will become heavier as we head to this evening. There's also a brisk northeasterly wind with highs of 7 degrees Celsius. Tonight, a cloudy night. Frost is possible in some spots. It should be largely dry, apart from some outbreaks to start with, and temperatures down to 2 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, a mixture of cloudiness and bright spells. Rain will be with us by the evening, though, and the wind will increase throughout the day, with temperatures reaching 9 degrees. Now, Thursday's looking like a windy day, but also some sunny spells and showers. Friday will be a mixture of sunshine and showers, which could be heavy at times. But the good news is that the weekend is looking much finer, with temperatures reaching double figures, perhaps even early teens. This is Georgina Burnett for BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you.
It may be the last month of the season, but Three Counties sport is still going strong. And tonight, we've 2 more live games. There's a home match for MK Dons against promotion contenders Swindon.
Whips one in low, surely! 1-0 to the Dons!
And Luton entertain Lincoln at Kenilworth Road.
Dancing header and in from the free kick.
2 more live commentaries tonight from 7 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Page 3 girls, they've been around for about 40 years, something like that. Is it sexist, outdated nonsense, or is it just a little bit of harmless fun? Well, the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. Our reporter, Justin Dealey, has been asking what you think about Page 3. Here's what the women thought.
I just think it's a bit archaic. It's outdated, you know. I think we should just move on, and I'd want to see better things in the paper, really.
I think it's dreadful. It actually puts me off. Anybody I see who's reading that paper, it puts me off them. I just don't get it at all. I mean, it's not that it's disgusting. It's just, like, it's unnecessary and pointless, and but I mean, you know, you don't have to flash it all over the place. And why aren't there blokes on there? I mean, it's only the women, isn't it? There's no blokes, you know, for us to go and look at and ogle at.
And here's what the gentleman thought.
Just something having a paper, isn't it? Well, it's hard not to look at it every day, isn't it? It's a bit of fun, yeah.
Not really. I'd rather have a hot meal. My days of lusting after youngsters is over. I think it's harmless. I mean, who does it offend, really? We came into the world naked, didn't we? So I think we've got enough of a nanny state now.
Well, unfortunately, I can't answer this question because my girlfriend going to listen to this radio, and personally, I think now they shouldn't put those kind of pictures on the newspaper.
Come on, man to man here, man to man, okay? Forget about your girlfriend listening. If Page 3 was to go, would you miss it, yes or no?
Yeah.
Joined now by 2 guests. Carla Bellucci from Hertfordshire, former glamour model and former brownie, now runs 21 Model Management. Also, Lucy Ann Holmes, who is from the campaign group No More Page 3. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Lucy, let's start with you first. What's so wrong with Page 3?
Okay, where to start? Well, I think essentially it's the largest female image in the newspaper, in the family newspaper, and this is a family newspaper, it gives away free Lego at half term. The largest female image is of a young woman in her knickers showing her breasts to men. That's pretty powerful. What's that teaching children about a woman's place in society? What's it teaching little girls about where their value lies, and what is it teaching boys about how to respect women? It's about the context. I do just want to make that clear. It's not anti-glamour modelling in any way. It's about the context of these pictures being in a family newspaper. So you see page after page of pictures of men in clothes doing things, like running the country or achieving in sports, and this massive image of a young woman showing her breasts for men.
Carla, it's the context. It's not appropriate to have it in a family newspaper. What would you say to that?
Oh, I think it's absolutely stupid. I think to say that is just pathetic. You take out page 3, then the next page you could have some other celebrity, like i.e. Rihanna half naked on holiday, or even more profile celebrity. So I don't think you can really say that. You're never going to get rid of that image of boobs and that in the paper, because I guarantee if the Sun takes it out tomorrow, you're still going to have somebody, whether it's somebody famous or
with their boobs out in the paper, and it's just what people want to see.
There is you say that, you're right. I did spot in the Sun today, I can't find it now, there's a picture, either today or maybe it was yesterday, there's a picture of Michael Bublé's partner in her pants. Lucy, it's a bit, it sells newspapers, and it is what people who buy the Sun want to see, isn't it?
Well, interesting. That's so interesting, because we've spoken to many Sun readers and many have signed the petition, and the overwhelming thing they're saying is, yeah, it's a bit of an embarrassment. I turn that page pretty quickly because I feel like a bit of a perv. I buy it for the sport, or I buy it for the great offers. Of course I'd carry on buying it without these pictures. One thing we do have now is the internet. If a man really needs to see a pair of nipples while he's reading a newspaper, he's got the internet if a nipple is really called for.
Carla, don't we want our children, our daughters and our nieces to strive for a little bit more than just showing their knockers on page 3?
See, I think, there's a lot worse jobs, and to me it's very harmless fun, nudity is around us all the time. I don't think there is no harm in it, and I think it's good to make your children aware of things, and I'm not prudish, I have 3 children, and I don't, find any disgrace in it, it is what it is.
But I would... Go on, Lucy, go on.
I just want to say these pictures aren't about nudity. These pictures are about showing men young women's breasts. If these pictures were about nudity, we'd see a 60-year-old man contentedly sitting under a tree naked.
But do you go on holiday? Do you go to the beach? People sit there with their boobs out on the beach all the time.
But the context is very, very different. It's not in the context of page after page, as I said, of men in clothes doing things. It's really powerful what it's saying to young women. I think it's so fantastic the Girl Guides are standing up about this.
No, I disagree.
Carla, I do kind of... I've got a niece who's 6 years old.
Yeah.
And... I would be so disappointed if she became a page 3 model. I don't know if that's snobbish or what, but I just would... I want more for her. I think that her and the young lady in the paper today, I think they're better than that.
Yeah, no, see, I just disagree, because then people say that, but then they'll be the ones, not always, and their kids might be wearing, something provocative in a club and that, and I would much rather my, daughter or whatever to be paid for doing something that she loves, and if it made her happy, I would be happy for her. At the end of the day, it's a pair of boobs. People sit on the beach topless. If it was naked, it'd be a whole different concept.
Lucy, she's right. It's surely it could be argued it's empowering the women in that they're getting paid, I'd imagine, quite healthy amounts of money.
Exactly.
To be in control of their bodies.
Like myself, would I ever sit on a beach topless? Never in a million years. Never in a million years.
But you'd whack them out in a newspaper.
Exactly.
Okay, Lucy.
I can totally understand. We live in a society where the largest female image in the newspaper is a young woman who's of a certain age, who's been deemed attractive enough to show her breasts in the paper. So I can totally understand how a woman, if she fitted that description and was picked to be in the paper, would feel empowered by getting money to do that. However, behind it, if you peer behind it, there's not a lot of respect. Alex Simwise has done page 3. She speaks really eloquently about it. She said people talk about empowerment, but actually, as glamour models, we were pandering. She said, and also, what you have to remember is how people communicate with them. So a man might say, oh, you look so beautiful, I want to masturbate over you. If she comes back and says anything, very quickly she's called a whore, she's told she's only got where she's...
I think that comes down
Can I just let me just interrupt, Carla, Lucy, let me just interrupt ever so slightly. I know that these if this show were on a little bit later, those words will be acceptable.
Sorry,
no, it's fine, it's fine. They're medical terms, but we do have. I think one of them's Latin. We do have young ears listening, so just back away ever so slightly from that.
Yeah.
Carla, your response.
I was just going to say, I don't know, I just think, who are these women campaigning against it? Is it women that have got insecurities with themselves? Do you know what I mean? I just want to know what sort of women is campaigning against it so bad.
Lucy, you're insecure within yourself?
I'm not. I really love my body, but I have to say, I was most affected by these images at the age of 11, when my brother, who's 10 years older, and my father, people in my family were talking about and commenting on the page 3 women's breasts. So at the age of 11, as my breasts were developing, I felt, because society was telling me that and my family and these images in the newspaper, that my breasts were there solely to be looked at by men, and mine fell short of the images in the paper. So therefore I carried a lot of shame, as so many women do, about their bodies and their breasts. What I think is, okay, I can see it's empowering for one woman, but I feel it's disempowering for all other women. And I'll tell you, the people who are working on the campaign are people like me who've grown up with page 3, feel very negatively affected by it, but also young women who've worked in bars where where Page 3 was around and men were commenting on their breasts in comparison to the women.
But I think that would have happened anyway.
I'm still talking. Where they were sexually assaulted numerous times. I think the culture that these pictures are creating, which is what I will say, and apologies, a core look at the tits on that culture, with that being the sad world. Well, this empowers other people. As I said to you, I didn't buy it when I was aged 11. These young women who were sexually assaulted and sexually harassed weren't buying it, but yet they were very affected by these images.
OK, listen, Lucy, Carla, stay there, because Pete from Kempston has called in. Pete, well, you've heard Carla and Lucy there, and again, apologies for any language that might be a little bit fruity at 5 to 8 in the morning. Pete, what's your take on Page 3?
Basically, let's get it right. A woman's got a beautiful body, there's no two ways about it, but these Page 3 things, it's their own vanity, mate. It really is their own vanity. If they didn't want to appear in the paper, nobody forced them to appear in there.
Exactly.
I think society...
women sort of that want to exploit their own vanity, there'd be no Page 3 at all. So.
Lucy, it's women, it's just vain women.
But it's really
we just want to look good. We just want to make men's mornings more pleasurable, do you know what I mean? When they're having their cup of tea.
Well,
but I will say we have many glamour models who've signed the petition, and interestingly, a former glamour model, Sheila Hageman, wrote and said, I wouldn't have done this had I not grown up where the largest, glossiest image in the newspaper was of a young woman showing her breast.
OK, listen, we're going to end it there. That you heard, the last voice you heard was Lucy Ann Holmes from the campaign group No More Page 3. The other lady's voice was Carla Bellucci, Hertfordshire former glamour model who runs 21 Model Management, and the gentleman was Pete from Kempston. The category C words there. Apologies if you had young people in the car with you or in eating breakfast and were asking what some of those words meant. I hope we didn't embarrass you, and I think a bit later on in the day we could probably have got away with those, but just have to issue a little apology. So, what do you think, dear listener? Is it outdated, sexist nonsense? Is it empowering women? It's putting them in a position of power. Page 3, 08459 455 555. Right. That was feisty, wasn't it? Travel news now. Here's Adam.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I can start with good news. Southbound the M1 at junction 10A is now clear. The broken down lorry that was on the roundabout has been removed. Main carriageway of the M1 southbound pretty slow from junction 10 through to 9 at Redbourne. The A1M was looking busy on the speed sensor, still is. Junction 8 at Hitchin through to 7 at Stevenage, taking maybe 10 minutes to get through the queues there, so not too bad, but definitely busy. The A10 southbound is slow as you get down toward the M25 at Enfield. Maybe about 15 minutes delays back through to the Great Cambridge Road at Turnford. The M40's looking busy, London bound from junction 1A at the M25 through to the end of the motorway at the A40, taking 5-10 minutes to get through. It's looking very slow, but of course the A40's very busy. There was a broken down vehicle at the Hanger Lane underpass earlier this morning, so it's very slow. M25 queues still building, but not too bad. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. We'll talk more about Margaret Thatcher and Page 3, I know, after the news with Serena.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. Preparations made for Margaret Thatcher's funeral. Charity tackles social stigma around disfigurement, and government aims to save £200 million.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The funeral of Baroness Thatcher will take place in the middle of next week. Her body was moved during the night from the Ritz Hotel in London, where she died yesterday following a stroke. The former Prime Minister will be given a ceremonial funeral with military honours. These people in Harpenden gave their feelings on how she'll be remembered.
I reckon she's one of the best Prime Ministers we've ever had. Really choked about it.
She'll be remembered because of the Falklands, of course. She really made history as far as I was concerned.
She was a very important figure in the 20th century British politics.
Well, she sorted out the trade unions. I thought she was brilliant.
Well, Nadine Dorries, the Conservative MP for Mid-Bedfordshire, has also been giving her views. She says Margaret Thatcher's legacy is taking Britain from a weak position to an economic powerhouse, considering what she inherited.
She came into government after 20 years, 2 decades of union domination, of people fleeing the country to work abroad, of massive inflation, of high unemployment, and of the world regarding us as a sick man of Europe and not wanting to do business with us. We had massive IMF loans that actually landed in the country, the IMF, to almost bankrupt us.
Turning to other news now then, and parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. 10-year-old Shamaya Arif from Luton suffered third-degree burns after a candle fell into her cot when she was 5 months old. Deborah from the charity Changing Faces says they help in a variety of ways.
We do have counsellors who work with individuals, either children and their parents or carers, with adults one-to-one. So we work with them, as I said, either in person or perhaps over the telephone, via email. We also go in and we will talk to teachers, we will talk to students.
Comments posted on Twitter by Britain's first Youth Police and Crime Commissioner are now being investigated by the force that employs her. Paris Brown, who's 17, wrote the messages before she was given the £15,000 a year job of improving relations between Kent Police and young people. Now the public's being asked for its reaction to ideas for cutting £220 million from the budget for criminal legal aid. Among the suggestions is a plan to remove automatic help for defendants with a disposable income of more than £37,500. Sport now then, and Roberto Mancini says the Premier League title race isn't back on. That's despite his Manchester City side beating Manchester United 2-1 last night. That now reduces United's lead to 12 points. Weather, and we're going to get some showery outbreaks, most of them though quite light. A little bit cooler than yesterday, temperatures 7 degrees Celsius. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
You moved your car yet?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just checking. Terrible parking this morning from Serena. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up in the last hour, including tributes continue to be paid across beds, hearts and bucks to Lady Thatcher after her death at the age of 87. What do you think will be her legacy? A leading national charity has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a social stigma attached to people who've been disfigured. Well, we've been hearing this morning the story of a Luton girl who lost her hair and facial features in a fire when she was a baby. And the Girl Guiding Association has signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. Sexist, outdated nonsense, or is it just a bit of fun? Facebook.com/BBC3CR, or give me a call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Tributes are being paid at home and abroad to Baroness Thatcher after her death at the age of 87. The funeral of the former Prime Minister is expected to be held next week. The ceremony, with full military honours, will take place at London's St Paul's Cathedral. Well, Matthew Parris is a journalist, political commentator and broadcaster. He served as the Conservative MP for West Derbyshire from 1979 until 1986, and he was also Correspondence Secretary to Margaret Thatcher. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
Matthew, what did she mean to you?
She meant the resurgence of the Conservative Party, which I had joined when I was at university, but it had lost its heart, it had lost its sense of direction, it had lost its belief that Britain could ever really be governed again. And then you had this extraordinary woman who, almost by accident, became leader of the party, who just infused all of us, the small team that I worked for when she was in opposition, and the party more broadly, just infused all of us with a kind of can-do spirit. She was a warrior. She had the defects of warriors. She saw the world in black and white. There were no greys. She talked about our people and their people. It was a very monochrome view of the world, but Britain needed a warrior at that time, and we all looked up to her.
What was she like as a human being? Was she quite intimidating, or did you feel that you were closer to her and therefore she kind of let her guard down a bit?
There are politicians, most of them I would say, of whom one would say if only you knew them in private you would see a very different person. She is not one of those. She was the same at breakfast as she was at Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons. You know, she would tend to bang the table and say what she thought. She brooked no opposition in private or in public. She had no small talk. She was not interested in the weather. She wasn't interested in food. She wasn't interested in travel. If you came to the dinner table with a new plan for reaching the planet Pluto, she would have been fascinated and talked to you all evening. If you wanted to gossip away about who's up who's down, where we're going to go on holiday next, her attention would wander. So she was very much in private, the person that she, I think, appeared to people in public. So I think the British public can feel that they knew Margaret Thatcher in a way that perhaps we can't feel that we know many of our leaders.
I was going to ask what your fondest memory of her was, but describing her like that, perhaps you don't have any fond memories.
Oh no, I have many fond memories of her. She was a very good office boss. She was very good to her employees. She never took it out on subordinates, you know. She never kicked the cat. She never kicked the correspondence secretary, and she was a lovely person to work for. She was always in at her desk before we were there. She always left after we did. She got very little sleep, and she infused the whole team with a kind of sense of directedness. She was a very difficult equal. Of course, I was never her equal, but I knew people who were, and she was an appallingly difficult colleague to work with. But no, my memories of her are very fond, but they are the memories of a boss person rather than the memories of an old chum.
Matthew Parris, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Matthew Parris, journalist, political commentator and broadcaster who worked very closely with Margaret Thatcher. Interesting that she was the same on screen as she was off. That I like that thing of not really being into small talk. I hate small talk. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. So the fact that she didn't enjoy that, I think, is quite good. What do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be? What will it be to you? And as I've said before, I don't want this to be a one-sided hagiography about Margaret Thatcher. If you didn't like her, then come on and tell us. Just tell us in a slightly reserved way. I'm not one of these that beats my chest when someone of whatever political belief dies. It's a little bit of respect for her and her family. Well, our reporter Justin Dealey has spent the morning with the independent MP for Mid-Beds, Nadine Dorris. Justin.
Yes, hello, Ian. We spoke to Nadine earlier, who spoke about Lady Thatcher's legacy. She said to me that she was a complete one-off. Nadine has also been giving her views on some of the nasty comments we've seen on social media since yesterday afternoon, and this is what she had to say.
It's desperately sad, and it's showing Britain as a place which perhaps it's becoming, and I think people around the world will find hard to understand. You cannot deny where she took us from and to, and you cannot deny that she saved us as a country. You know, the unions had absolutely thrashed Harold Wilson. They thrashed Edward Heath, who I think went out and said, who governs this country? And the answer was the unions. And what her achievement in that was, pretty amazing. And so I think it's desperately sad. I've seen some of the comments myself, and I don't think that people will be. Tony Blair took the country into an Iraq war. Prime ministers have to do unpopular things. I just get a feeling that when Tony Blair's day comes, we may not see the same vitriol that we're seeing coming from the left.
So there you go, the words of Nadine Dorris talking to me early this morning. We've seen some of those nasty comments since yesterday afternoon. Nadine clearly saying that it's not right. Some people, of course, celebrating the death of Lady Thatcher, which I find incredible. But Nadine having her views there. I'm in Luton right now, Ian, and I will be talking to people about her legacy, what she's left behind, what can be carried forward. Some interesting views coming in already, and you'll hear those after 8:30.
And she does incite a lot of passion, because some people feel that their lives were enriched by her, and a lot of people feel that their lives were ruined by her. And I don't know enough about that political era to make up my mind either way, but I can understand both sides of the argument. But I just think, let's not dance on an old woman's grave, for goodness sakes. We're better than that.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I've just spoken to a couple of people. Again, you'll hear those views a bit later, but the first person had nothing but horrible things to say. The next person had nothing but nice things to say. So when you speak to people, it's either one or the other. There's nobody in the middle. It's one or the other.
It's the same. It's the same when I'm discussing you, Justin. You really are. You do divide the listeners.
You love him or you hate him.
Justin, thanks very much. Speak to you a bit later on. 08459 455 555. April's in Luton. April, what do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be?
For me personally, she was an inspiration. She was the woman who any woman of today's ilk could aspire to, I think. I grew up in I was born in the 70s, so, I grew up in the 70s when I remember having power cuts. I remember the 3-day week. I was very young at the time, but I remember we couldn't have the television on. And I grew up when she came into power, when we went into recession. I remember that really big recession in the mid to late 80s, early 90s. And as she pulled us through that, I remember the Falklands War, and she just gave me so much to think about, so much to realise that actually I was in control of my own destiny, and I needed to pull myself out of whatever there was that needed to be pulled out of. And my parents bought their home from the council, and she gave a lot of us that power and the ability to own our own home, something that we never aspired to before that.
There are some people, April, I saw arguing last night that if anything, she may have set back women's roles in politics quite some way, just because she was so strong and so divisive that it doesn't look like we're going to get a female Prime Minister for quite some time.
In the world, there are very few women at the top. That's nothing to do with Margaret Thatcher. That's to do with politics and there's still some social issues around women in control. But a lot more companies are finding it acceptable to have women in the lead, and certainly the company I work for, my managing director is a woman, and she's aspiring as well, in the same way Margaret Thatcher was. You know exactly what she wants. She makes it very clear. The targets are there, and they don't settle for anything less than what is the target.
April, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. What do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be for you personally? How did she affect your life, positive or negative? What do you think her legacy will be? 08459 455 555. You can also go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. And also get in touch. Page 3. We seem to have this discussion every few months, and it hasn't gone away yet. I do think it will go away at some point soon. Look, there we go, page 23. There's Michael Bublé's the girlfriend in her bra and pants. The Girl Guides have signed up to the No More Page 3 campaign. And, I mean, look, Rosie, 21, from Middlesex, is beautiful. I wonder what her mum and dad think, though. What would her mum and dad think? I don't know the young lady's situation. I'm assuming she has a mum and dad. What would they think when they look at page 17? Will they go, I am so proud. What's my little girl? Oh, it's my little girl on page 3. I'm so proud of her. Look. Come and have a look. Come and have a look, Mum. Look. Rosie's on page 3. Yeah, look at that. Oh, she's talking about General Douglas MacArthur. Would they really be like that? Or would there be part of the dad in particular going, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I remember when she was 3 and I just had so many dreams for her, and this is the best. Her standing in a pair of pink pants with a necklace on, looking straight at the camera I don't know. 08459 455 555. Page 3. Harmless, fun, or is it sexist and past its sell-by date? Right, approaching 8:15. Here's the travel news. Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. The southbound M1 slow with delays from the Luton Airport spur to the A5 at Redbourne Junction 10 to 9. The A1, that's busy this morning. Usual spot at the Black Cat roundabout's looking quite slow. About 10 minutes of delays at the minute between the Great North Road at Eaton Soken and the Black Cat roundabout there. Southbound on the A1M, it's slow from Hitchin through to Stevenage, Junction 8 to 7. Then once you get toward London, in Boreham Wood, there are queues between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. The A10, southbound from Turnford through to the M25 at Enfield, it's taking you around 15 or 20 minutes in the queues there. London-bound M40's busy between Junction 1A at the M25 and the end of the motorway at the A40. And then as you head further into London, if you're using the A40 this morning, expect long delays. There was a broken down vehicle at Hanger Lane earlier this morning, and it's causing delays of about an hour. Clockwise M25, now slow, entering the roadworks at Junction 23, the A1M. Anti-clockwise, you'll still find queues from the M1 all the way round to the M40, and London Midland reporting 15-minute delays on the trains between Leighton Buzzard and Tring. They now think that trains are going to have to run at reduced speed because of this signalling problem until about 9:30. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. morning, it's 8:16. It's Tuesday the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Mid-Bedfordshire's MP says Margaret Thatcher's legacy is taking Britain from a weak position to an economic powerhouse. Parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. In sport, Premier League leaders Manchester United lost 2-1 to arch-rivals Manchester City last night. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. Showery outbreaks during the day. Most of these will be light. Feeling chilly in the easterly breeze. Maximum temperature is 7 degrees. Coming up, Changing Faces, a leading national charity tackling facial disfigurement, has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a social stigma attached to disfigured people, and more needs to be done. Before 8:30, we'll hear from the consultant child psychologist specialising in the burns unit at St Andrew's Centre for Plastic Surgery and Burns.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone with the best local news stories.
I get to meet a lot of really interesting people with the most amazing stories.
We feel as if we haven't been taken notice of.
Yesterday we heard that the bank had gone, but today it's still there.
The cat got delivered up in Kabul. You should be back in the UK in 2 months.
With the best local talking points.
Do some of the bakers have flapjack fights?
No, of course not, Roberto. Well, not in our shops.
Roberto Perrone, weekdays from 3.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yeah, BBC Three Counties Radio, it's a lot of fun. You've got me, you've got Nick Coffer, you've got Roberto, but you've also got the number one, it's JVS. Mike, who does the trails, has not yet picked... I'm sending him these songs every day that I'm writing.
Are you?
I'm writing... I spent all of last week writing that one, and I'm giving them to him. He's not used one of them. Not even once.
I can't understand why.
I'm going to call for his sacking.
You've got a lovely voice, haven't you?
I have got a lovely voice. Thank you. At last, someone recognises true talent. True talent.
Yes, you're like Robbie Williams. You're like this station's Robbie.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so kind. Thank you,
the way your face is lit up.
Oh, that is honestly, that is the nicest thing you've ever said about me. Thank you very much. Oh, that's good.
Oh,
and you're like this station's Neil Sedaka.
I loved it when you played Neil yesterday. I turned it right up in the car.
That's when the music takes me.
It was brilliant.
We should record a single, not for charity, for our own gains.
Like Robson and Jerome.
Or Pat Sharp and Mick Brown. Like either of those pairs of gentlemen.
Imagine?
We should do that, and it'd be brilliant. We get on top of the pops on a Thursday. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Being smash hits. I'd love to have a top 10.
Anyone would buy it?
I mean, these suckers listening to this nonsense. I mean, sorry, cut that bit out. The listeners of BBC Three Counties would certainly back any musical venture that we we enjoy.
What should we sing?
Well, dear listener, this is it. 08459 455 555. I put it to you. If JVS and I were to record a single, and let's say it's looking likely, what song should we do?
I like your poker face, your poker face. That one.
That's Lady Gaga, is it?
I think so.
Yes.
I don't know whether I got the lyrics right or not.
08459 455 555. Jonathan Vernon-Smith and myself are going to record a single, not for charity, for our own pockets. What song would you like us to do? Oh, we could do, Wasn't It Good?
So good.
Wasn't it fine?
So fine.
Isn't it madness?
He won't be mine.
That'd be nice. I'm feeling something here.
What about Islands in the Stream?
Oh, can I be Kenny? Can I be Kenny? Islands in the Stream. Well, okay, yeah, fine. When do we do it? How do we do it?
I have no idea.
You've got a keyboard. I've got a ukulele.
Oh, true.
Yeah, sweet. Anyway, listen, we should probably discuss what's coming up on your show. We'll discuss this off air.
Yeah, let's
attack on the charts.
Have a programme meeting.
Yes.
After I finish.
My people will get in touch with your people and we'll find a window.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Coming up at 9 on this morning's Big Phone In, it probably will not surprise you to learn that we're going to be discussing Margaret Thatcher, and I want to hear your views from 9. Will you remember Margaret Thatcher as a good Prime Minister? David Cameron has said Lady Thatcher didn't just lead our country, she saved it. She was a very proactive leader. The legacy of her policies like buying council homes and the privatisation of our industries meant that her stamp has been firmly left on our country. But we all know that these policies weren't universally popular.
there are parties planned in the UK. Have you heard about this?
Celebrating her death.
Parties to celebrate her death.
Yeah.
Apparently there are a group of people who are trying to get Ding Dong the Witch is Dead to number 1. Well, from 9 this morning, I want to hear your views. Will you remember Margaret Thatcher as a good Prime Minister, or, in your opinion, was she one of the worst? 08459 455 555 from 9. We'll talk about that.
People hate her, and I understand why people hate her.
Some people hate
her, some people love her. And whatever my political beliefs are, I can't celebrate. I can't celebrate the death of a grandmother. I can't do that. I just think it's yes, she may not have liked what she did, and she may have hated her. You may feel that she ruined your life. But we're better than that, I think, to be doing things than that.
Well, I don't know, because I think there are some people for whom the hatred of what she did and what she stood for, and the manner with which she conducted herself, it's so ingrained and it runs so deep that actually they can't see her as a grandmother. They can't see her as a human being. They just think she was a nasty woman who made terrible mistakes for the UK, and the UK is still suffering those effects now. Whether you are of that persuasion, or whether you think no, she was a fantastic Prime Minister, I'd love to hear your view from 9.
08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Changing Faces, a leading charity which supports people who've been disfigured, has told BBC Three Counties that there's still a negative perception attached to people who look different to the norm. The charity says the pressure on children and adults to look a certain way is out of control, and these assumptions have to be dispelled to combat prejudice. Well, our reporter, Sophie Solaria, has been to meet 10-year-old Shamayam Arif, her mum Taida and her auntie Fazana Javed. The family came to Luton 10 years ago to get medical help for the burns she received after a candle fell into her cot when she was 5 months old. The accident caused Shamayam to lose her hair, hands and facial features.
She gets very shy, hides behind anyone and everything she can see. Now, when she was young, she was okay. She used to run around everywhere, nothing mattered to her, but as she's growing up, it is really getting to her now. She really feels it a lot.
You're Shamayam's mum, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're her auntie. Tell me, when you first came over from Pakistan 10 years ago, why did you come and what happened?
She was burnt in her cot.
Candle fire.
Yeah, candle fire. Because it was winter and they don't have electricity and they have to put lit candles up just to get light. That fell onto the plastic table and that went onto her cot where she was sleeping. By the time they got there, her head and her arms were badly burnt.
It must have been incredibly frightening.
Very frightening, yes. I never knew that she would pull through this much. It was very frightening at the beginning when she lost her hands and disfigurement and everything. And then when she came here, she knew there was hope. It affected them really, really badly because she was the first child in the family.
Yeah,
because when I was in Pakistan, I was mentally getting disturbed, because everyone kept saying negative things about her. She'll never survive, she'll die, this will happen, that'll happen, and that kind of stuff. And then when she came here, when I came here, I had hope.
Shamayam, how old are you?
10. Yeah.
So what's happening this summer?
She'll be going to Choni Girls High School after summer holidays.
And new school, are you worried about this?
She goes, I do feel I feel as if when sometimes bullying does happen, I do have that fear in me that could happen any point at high school.
What sort of support has Shamayam received so far?
She goes to a counselling group in town centre.
Therapy.
They don't share it with the parents either, what happens, how far it's gone, so they just keep it between Shamayam and themselves. They have a chat with her.
We don't chat, we play games.
It does come to mind when you just sit down and you just close your eyes and you think to yourself, what's happened? It does bring so many questions to your mind, but then we think, thanks to Allah, she can talk, she can read, write, everything she can do. She can even eat by herself. She just keeps a brave face and smile on her face all the time. She's an inspiration to other children.
Well, that was Sophie Solaria speaking to 10-year-old Shamayam, her mum Taida and her auntie. Dr Nancy Cohen is a consultant child psychologist specialising in the burns unit at St Andrew's Centre for Plastic Surgery and Burns at Broomfield Hospital in Chelmsford. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Doctor, I'm sure it's different for every single case, but how does disfigurement affect a child growing up?
Well, it's obvious, I suppose, that they can never just blend in a crowd. People are always going to be looking at them, at least initially, and initially seeing something unusual. And that's something that they can never get away from. So they have to learn how to manage people staring at them and how to get past that, which they can.
And people do stare, and that's not necessarily a rude thing, is it? It's because our eye's drawn to something that's different. So how can you help a young person get past that?
That's right. Staring is natural. Some people are just curious, and, there are sometimes people that are nasty with staring, but not usually. I mean, the first thing is that the person has to accept that it's going to happen. And when you're passing someone in the street, there's very little you can do. But something like being in school where you have time to get to know each other, the kind of initial seeing someone who looks different can be got over really quite quickly when the personality comes out and when people see the person behind the face. And someone like Shamian, who's got a lot of personality, that can be a big help.
When kids get to sort of 10, 11, a little bit older, 12, 13, that's when kids who aren't disfigured are becoming more aware of their appearance and trying to enhance their appearance. Do children who are disfigured feel they're missing out on that natural development?
Well, I mean, they too will want to be doing the same thing. They'll be wanting to wear trendy clothes and look as good as they can. And it's surprising, I suppose, to think that they would be trying to do the same thing, but of course they are. They want to be teenagers and like everybody else. And so appearance is important. It's important to everyone, as your program said. You can't get away from it. But they have to. They have to show something much more about themselves, which they can. I mean, after all, these children have had to go through an awful lot of very, very difficult experiences other children haven't. So they used to meeting a lot of people. They're used to having to have serious discussions. And so in some ways they can be more mature than their peers and, more able to kind of see what's important and what's not.
If a 10-year-old child comes to you and they're disfigured and they're being bullied and they just can't take it anymore, how can you help them?
Two ways. First of all, we would try to help the school, because the school should have a really good policy in helping children manage and feel welcome. And for the child, it's giving them strategies of how to manage. There's techniques to help them respond when people are bullying, but also techniques to help them respond just when someone's staring, to very quickly take control themselves, because these children have to take control themselves of what other people know about them and how they want to manage. And it's doable.
Dr. Nancy Cohn, thank you very much indeed. Consultant child psychologist, is specialising in burns, in the burns unit at St Andrew's Centre for Plastic Surgery and Burns. 08459 455 555. Margaret Thatcher's passing. What legacy will she leave behind? What did she mean to you? We'll speak more after the travel. Here's Adam Glynn.
Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
As we head through the morning, it's definitely starting to look busier. Looking at the speed sensors, quite a few places slowing up. The M1 just past Newport Pagnell, in and around Bedford, maybe a little bit busy. The A5 through Dunstable's looking slow past the A505. M1 southbound particularly slow from junction 10 at Luton Airport Spur to 9 at Redbourne. The speed sensors showing things have dropped in terms of speeds through there, down to around 25 miles an hour, so it's a bit of a crawl. The A1, a few patches are slow. First off the Black Cat roundabout, then as you join the A1M, past Stevenage is looking busy, and then into London on the A1 round Boreham Wood, queues from Stirling Corner to Mill Hill Circus. The A10's looking slow through Cheshunt as you come down toward the M25. Of course, we have got the roadworks on the M25, so that's probably contributing to the queues there. M40 delays from junction 1A at the M25 through to the end of the motorway and onto the A40, and then the A40 queues now are from roundabout Uxbridge at the Swakeleys roundabout through to the Target roundabout after problems at Hanger Lane earlier this morning. So the M25 slow clockwise going into the roadworks at junction 23, anti-clockwise from the M1 to the M40, and London Midland still reporting delays of up to 15 minutes. Leighton Buzzard to Tring because of signalling problems. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 8:30 News and Sport now. Here's Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The funeral of Baroness Thatcher will take place in the middle of next week. Stay listening for more, as the JVS show will be asking, will you remember Margaret Thatcher as a good Prime Minister? All that from 9 this morning. In other news, parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred fear she'll get teased when she starts secondary school. They're trying to fight against the social stigma around disfigurement. The public's being asked for its reaction to ideas for cutting £220 million from the budget for criminal legal aid, and comments posted on Twitter by Britain's first ever Youth Police and Crime Commissioner are now being investigated by the force that employs her. That's the news. Now let's turn to all the morning sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Kicking off with the Premier League then, Manchester City beat the leaders Manchester United 2-1 at Old Trafford last night. That victory moves them within 12 points of United and 7 games to go. The City midfielder Gareth Barry says they were playing for pride, with his manager Roberto Mancini having already conceded defeat in the title race.
To win here 2 years in a row sets a good standard for our club, so that we can come here and not be frightened of a great club like United. So, there's other things we need to learn on. The way they've consistently got results this year without playing well, we need to try and do that next season ourselves.
Let's take a peek then at tonight's action. Champions League quarter-finals. Real Madrid play Galatasaray in Istanbul. That's with a 3-0 lead from the first leg of the quarter-final time. Meanwhile, Borussia Dortmund face Malaga in Germany. Dortmund are actually the only unbeaten side left in the competition. Elsewhere, the FA expect goal line technology to be formally taken on board by the Premier League on Thursday. The name of the company that will be awarded the contract will also be expected to be revealed. The FA is also planning to install a system at Wembley by August. And finally, the British number 1 Laura Robson lost in the first round of the Open tennis in Poland. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 9.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. 8:33 exactly. Lot to cram in between now and JVS at 9 o'clock, including page 3. Is it outdated? Is it time we got rid of it? Or is it just a bit of harmless fun? And also the big news story of the day, the passing of Margaret Thatcher. What do you think her legacy will be? What did she mean to you? 08459 455 555. Well, now preparations are being made for the funeral of Baroness Thatcher. It will be held at St Paul's Cathedral and is expected to take place next week. It won't be a state funeral, but it will be a grand occasion on a similar scale to the services held for Princess Diana and the Queen Mother. Well, one of those who knew Baroness Thatcher well is the owner of Hatfield House in Hertfordshire, Lord Salisbury. He was elected to the House of Commons in 1979, the year Lady Thatcher first became Prime Minister. He was in Parliament for 2 terms under her as leader. He joins me now. Good morning, Lord Salisbury.
Good morning to you.
What memories do you have of Baroness Thatcher?
Well, I think my overwhelming memory was coming into the House of Commons as a very young MP for the first time in 1979, having lived and worked in America many years before, coming back to England and having one of the most unpleasant sensations of my life, which was having been proud of my country from birth, to have seen what it had become and feel ashamed of it. And then watch from, as a very obscure MP on the back benches, her determination transform the country into something which we could begin to be proud of again.
We've been hearing how determined and single-minded she was. Was that a problem for those who worked alongside her?
Yes, I don't think she was a very comfortable colleague. I never had the privilege of being a member of her government, except very, very briefly as the most obscure kind of member of the payroll, which was as a PPS, but I resigned over Irish policy. So I never got any further. But it was perfectly clear that the very traditional Tories, the Ian Gilmores and Christopher Soameses, did not find her comfortable. And I think that was one of the things she did. She shook up the establishment at both ends of the social spectrum, which was something that was very badly needed if the country was going to modernise and have a chance to compete with the rest of the world. And of course she had this immense influence worldwide, which is important for the standing of our country, but also very important for the sort of things that happened the end of the rust bucket Soviet Empire, and the sort of atmosphere which enabled Deng Xiaoping to become the extraordinary transformative leader of China that he did.
Did she visit you at Hatfield House?
She did, very quietly. The people who looked after her in her declining years, particularly in the last year or so, said that as she was suffering from dementia, what really she would like would be some fresh air. And so very often when we weren't there, she quietly used to be brought down, and she used to take the air in the garden on the private side at Hatfield House. And I think we all felt that this was a great privilege for us to be able to help in that way.
How would you sum her up, Lord Salisbury?
I'd sum her up as an elemental force who transformed the country and was unquestionably a great Prime Minister. Personally, she was very kind to me, even though the last couple of times I met her as Prime Minister, we had a pretty serious argument, in this case about Afghanistan.
Oh, did you have a stand-up row with her?
Well, I had a pretty free and frank exchange of views over the retreat of the Soviets in Afghanistan, I remember. And I was pretty tired, having been backwards and forwards to Pakistan 2 or 3 times in the week. I'm afraid I rather lost my temper and was told afterwards I behaved rather badly. I don't think she minded too much.
Did you shout at Margaret Thatcher? I don't think many people can say they've done that and survived.
I wouldn't say that. I would say we had a pretty crisp exchange, yes.
I like the term crisp exchange. And how difficult... We've all remember the image, of course, of her leaving Downing Street and with tears in her eyes. How difficult was it for her when she was out of power?
Well, of course, I'd left Parliament by that stage and retired temporarily, as it turned out, to private life. But I think it was obviously a terrible moment for her. She felt she had been forced out and undefeated, as Charles Moore put it. But I think one of the other things that I would think we ought to remember is that privately she was extraordinarily kind, particularly to the people who worked for her. I remember Chris Patton, who didn't always agree with her, saying to me it's very difficult to be really hard-nosed with somebody who behaves so badly when she, as Prime Minister, visited so well that when she, as Prime Minister, visited him in hospital. And she was very kind to me when I was sacked by William Hague. She rang me up and wanted to know whether I was all right, which, of course, I was. But she took enormous trouble with people, and her kindness is something... Personal kindness is something that I'll always remember.
Lord Salisbury, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Well, Margaret Thatcher was Chancellor at the University of Buckingham between 1992 and 1998. Terence Keeley is the current Vice-Chancellor and knew her personally. Good morning, Terence.
Good morning.
What do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be?
I completely agree with your previous speaker. The greatest Prime Minister this country's had since Winston Churchill, the most influential and important Prime Minister since Clement Attlee. She transformed the nation. She turned us from a failure into a success, and her legacy is immortal.
How active was she as Chancellor at the University of Buckingham?
She was a very good Chancellor. She came for the formal ceremonies, of course, and during the formal ceremonies she made every single student, particularly the graduation ceremonies, she made every single student feel very special, and she made their parents feel very special. But on top of that, she would come every 6 months informally to meet staff and students and to find out what was going on, and made it very clear at all times that she had the interest of the university very much at her heart personally.
Did you find her intimidating, Terence?
Well...
You sound like quite an upright gentleman. I find it hard to imagine you could be intimidated by anyone, but what was she like?
I remember once we were talking about the importance of government funding of science, and she said that Britain needed to win more Nobel Prizes. And I was trying to explain to her that Nobel Prizes didn't really bear any relation to economic growth. And to try to say it very simply, I said, Prime Minister, I said, you mean like the Soviet Union, which of course won lots of Nobel Prizes. And her response was, don't be so silly, young man. And I've never forgotten that. I thought it was very funny.
You were dissed by Margaret Thatcher. What are your memories of her?
Well, my memories about her personally was that she... rather like the mythology, she sometimes wasn't sufficiently quiet in conversations. She would definitely try to dominate conversations as a form of challenging you. But I think that was the price you paid for a Prime Minister so challenging that she completely transformed the way the government was run. But my overall memory, funny enough, isn't personal but professional. I trained originally as a doctor, and I will never forget, in the winter of discontent, at my hospital, at Bart's Hospital in London in 1979, the admissions into the hospital and into the casualty department were determined by the porters. The porters of the hospital had effectively taken control of the hospital and were telling doctors and nurses and patients who was to be admitted and who wasn't to be admitted. That was the extent of trade union power in this country in 79. It was an intolerable way of running a nation. And my memories are not so much personal as professional. She absolutely wouldn't allow that to continue. She stopped it and she turned us into a civilized nation. My personal memories are that she was actually a very difficult, quite confrontational, not an easy colleague. But that, unfortunately, was what the nation required.
Terence, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
It's Terence Keeley, current Vice-Chancellor of the University of Buckingham. Well, what do you think? 08459 455 555. What do you think Margaret Thatcher's legacy will be? Two gentlemen there, Terence Keeley and Lord Salisbury, who obviously very much in favour of what she did and what she achieved. What do you think her legacy will be? Ken's from Luton. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Ken, what will Margaret Thatcher's legacy be?
She's turned this country into an industrial wilderness. That's why we're not getting out of this recession. We've got nothing to sell. And she's made it easier for the bosses to get rid of workers. And Vauxhall, we used to have 33,000 people in Luton working for Vauxhall or offshoots and that. Now we've got none. You only have to look in the local paper. We used to have pages and pages of engineering workers and all the other workers that used to...
And is that Margaret Thatcher's fault?
Yes.
Why?
Because Vauxhall, when they were making people redundant or they had to cut back, they didn't sack the German workers because the British workers were easier to sack. And yet they never had a strike down in Vauxhall for 25 years.
And so you're saying that I think, if I've got this right, that because of the way that she broke up the unions, there are some people, and we just heard Terence Keeley there, and some other callers have said that perhaps the unions were too powerful in the 70s, and maybe something needed to be done.
I agree with that. I never joined a union, but I know they was like Red Robbo and Scargill and all that. They were right in what they were saying, but they went the wrong way about it. That's the trouble. It gave her ammunition. And when I know a firm in this country that were developing an automated machine, they went to the government for £11 million to finish it off. She wouldn't give them it. It went to Japanese, come over here, bought the machine, took it back there, and now we're buying that very machine for our engineering work.
Ken, listen, we're going to move on, but thank you very much for that. David's from Hemel. Good morning, David.
Hi there.
What do you think? Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. What do you think Thatcher's legacy will be?
Her legacy? Oh, well, as a tough Prime Minister, uncompromising, stuck to a gun, not like the wishy-washy lot we got now.
What do you think she achieved? What you're obviously a fan of hers. What made her so good?
What made her so good? Decisive. That's what we haven't got at the moment. We've got three parties, all wishy-washy. Nobody can make a decision. They're all centre parties. Skirt around the edges. They want to keep themselves popular, keep themselves in their jobs. And they're not doing what's really, really right for the country. That's why it's in such a mess.
I guess it could be argued that because Thatcher was so divisive, and there are people that hate her, that perhaps David Cameron and the leaders today are afraid of upsetting as many people as she did.
Well, of course, yeah, she's the Marmite Prime Minister. That's my phrase, the Marmite Prime Minister. You either loved her or hated her, and the answer is, like Marmite, she's good for you.
David, listen, we're going to end it there. Just I want to squeeze in as many callers as we can between now and 9 o'clock. Thank you very much indeed. Well, David from Hemel, the phrase he came up with, the Marmite Prime Minister. Sounds about right, doesn't it? 08459 455 555. If anything, that's got me wanting a bit of Marmite on some granary bread now, to be honest. David, thank you for that. 8:45, travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still slow on the M40, particularly London bound from the M25 through to the A40, and then if you're heading further into London along the A40, you've got queues From, well, about the M40 now, it's starting to turn into one solid queue. From there through to the Target roundabout in Northolt, delays of about 20 minutes. There was a broken down car at the Hanger Lane underpass much earlier this morning, and that's caused long delays through West London. The A1 southbound, we've got delays from Eton Soken through to the Black Cat roundabout. Then if you're continuing on to the A1M, it's busy from Hitchin through to Stevenage, and again into London around Boreham Wood, queues from Stirling Corner to Mill Hill Circus. It's very slow through Cheshunt this morning. The A10 looking quite slow from the Great Cambridge Road down to the M25, but of course that's where we've got the roadworks on the M25. The A414 in London Coney's looking busy at the Park Street roundabout. Chalk Hill around Watford looking slow at the Bushy Arches. M25 clockwise starting to ease a little. It was looking slow into the roadworks at junction 23. Anti-clockwise though, you're still going to find it busy from the M1 round to the M40, so junction 21 to 16. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Right, nearly 8:47. It's Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Mid-Bedfordshire's MP Nadine Dorries says Margaret Thatcher's legacy is taking Britain from a weak position to an economic powerhouse. The parents of a 10-year-old girl from Luton who's facially scarred say more needs to be done to combat the social stigma attached to disfigurement. In sport, Manchester City's win last night moves them to within 12 points of Manchester United. Coming up, tributes continue to be paid across Beds, Herts and Bucks to Lady Thatcher after her death at the age of 87. But what do you think will be her legacy? 08459 455 555. We'll discuss that more after the weather with Georgina Burnett.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Bit of a cloudy day today. Rain will probably join us around lunchtime, early afternoon. It becomes heavier in the early evening, and we've got a brisk northeasterly wind with highs of 7 degrees Celsius. Tonight will be a cloudy night. Frost is possible in some parts, and it should be a largely dry night apart from outbreaks to start with temperatures down to 2 degrees. And tomorrow will be a mixture of cloudiness and bright spells. Rain's likely to be with us by the evening, and the winds increase throughout the day, with temperatures reaching 9 degrees. Thursday and Friday looking like a mixture of sunshine and showers, which could be heavy at times. The good news is, though, the weekend, the weather is looking up. We could have temperatures in the early teens.
Ooh! I'll have a bit of that, please.
Tackling your consumer problems.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
My son took it back to the garage. The mechanic says, yeah, I know what it is. So they took it in, done what they had to do, and the car was still the same, still doing the same thing.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
The long and short of it is, he agreed that he would replace the car.
If you have a consumer problem,
we can do the same for you.
I'd like to thank you and your team for everything you've done. We wouldn't have got where we got without you.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to call that a result. Any other problems, you know where I am, Stuart.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Preparations are being made for the funeral of Baroness Thatcher. It'll be held at St Paul's Cathedral and is expected to take place next week. It won't be a state funeral, but it will be a grand occasion on a similar scale to the services held for Princess Diana and the Queen Mother. Well, our reporter Justin Dealey has been out this morning talking to people about her. What have people been saying? Justin, what's kind of the general reaction?
Well, so many opinions, not only on the street, but of course live on your programme this morning. The question we're asking today is, what will Lady Thatcher's legacy be? I've been out and about in Luton in the Stockwood Park area, and this is what people have had to say, Ian.
Robert, what do you think Lady Thatcher's legacy will be?
Well, I don't know. I think what she's done, she's just passed a lot of religion rubbish on to us, you know, and the government now are doing exactly what she was doing. And they're just ruining the country. We're run by foreigners now, foreign countries, rather than the British.
So you think in terms of a legacy, she's left nothing to carry forward at all?
Nothing at all, I don't think so. I think the only thing that she's done right was the Falklands, you know, and we happened to win that.
Madam, we're talking Lady Thatcher's legacy this morning. What do you think her legacy will be?
She saved the country. Yeah, I do think that, yeah.
Because a lot of people are saying the complete opposite this morning.
Well, they would, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Why would they say that?
Well, you only had to look back to the days when she was in and all the trouble she had with, you know, the strikers and that.
So her legacy, as far as you're concerned, is saving this great country.
That's right, yeah.
A wonderful woman, took the country out of troubles, and she was stabbed by her own party.
John, in terms of legacies, it would be strength and certainly fighting for what you believe in. But you've got some comments on what's being said since yesterday afternoon on some of these social networking sites, some vile comments. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think anybody should get up and say we're glad somebody's dead, because we're all going to be dead in the end, and they're going to face it. And they're youngsters that know nothing about what she did. I mean, they're in the past. Margaret Thatcher's in the past, and they're youngsters that can't understand what was happening at the time.
Does that infuriate you? Because people are making comments about something they don't understand. Does that make you angry?
Yeah, it does, yeah. That's the point.
And a final word here with Tom. Tom, what do you think Lady Thatcher's legacy will be?
Well, to me, it'd be good, because she looked after me in the 80s when, as you know, in the 70s, things were bad. And she done things. So for me, she's good. But obviously, I realise to some people she did bad. But in general, I think she did a good job.
Well, that gentleman there summed it up, Justin. She done things.
Absolutely, for him, certainly in the 1980s, what she was practising worked for him, but he makes the point for others, of course, that wasn't the case. But we did receive some nasty comments this morning, Ian. Those people wouldn't come on record and say that, and I think one of your previous callers, just after 8:30, summed it up beautifully, really, when he said that we have a Prime Minister in the 1980s that was a Marmite Prime Minister. You either loved her or you hated her, and it's as simple as that. You know, being out this morning in Luton, being in Westerning, speaking to people about Lady Thatcher, you either loved her or you hated her. There's no middle ground whatsoever.
Justin, excellent stuff as always. Thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. What do you think Thatcher's legacy will be? Mary's in Hemel. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, don't worry. Listen, I'm happy to be mistaken for JVS. Well, what do you think? Was she a good Prime Minister or a bad one?
Well, quite frankly, to me, I think she was one of the best Prime Ministers we've ever had. We are, at the moment now, a very unhappy country. We're very sad. We haven't got the pride that we had when she was in power. We were strong. She fought the EU for our cause. We had nobody's fighting for us now in the EU. They bend and sway with the wind. Can you imagine somebody like, say, Abu Qatada being allowed to stay in this country? She would have defied the EU and said out, and that would have been that. But
Mary, you say that we were happy then. I remember the 80s.
We were happy. We were happier, definitely.
I remember the 80s being miserable, and I remember lots of people being very unhappy as they lost their jobs, as their mines were closed down, as the people were sent off to the Falklands. There was a lot of conflict in the 80s.
There was people were complaining about the Falklands. I know she did a lot of things that were wrong, but she was only human after all. But this was a woman who worked her way up from nothing. What we've got now. You then knew who was Conservative, who was Labour, that was it. Now, they're all more or less the same. There's corruption and sleaze everywhere. You can't say that she was ever corrupt or sleazy. None of that happened under her rule. She just was a strong woman. And I can't understand so many women are against her, because we're a funny country, you know, Ian. We deride people who work their way up from nothing to make a success. Look how they pull down the Beckhams. You know, nice young couple, never done anything to anybody, yet all the time they take the mickey out of Victoria because she doesn't smile. But when I see the country now, how unhappy and miserable, I should think nearly the whole country is now, to the state that we've become.
Mary, is it true? Sorry to interrupt, just running out of time. Is it true that Margaret Thatcher invented Mr. Whippy?
Oh, I've never heard. What's Mr. Whippy?
Mr. Whippy? You don't know Mr. Whippy?
No, what is it?
Mr. Whippy, the soft scoop ice cream. You know when you go to the ice cream van?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I thought that she invented the soft scoop ice cream, yes.
No, when I was a child going to school, there used to be a Tony Bell shop. It was one of the first Italian ice cream. It was in Burnt Oak near Edgware.
Oh, and it was the one that was they had the machine where you put the cone under and you pull a handle.
You should buy soft ice cream that they would, put in a cone for you.
But did they scoop it out, or did it come out of a machine?
Came out of a machine.
Oh, well then I've got that one wrong, Mary.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. I thought that she invented Mr. Whippies. That's what I'd been led to believe. I didn't sit through all of that film about her life. I thought that film was absolutely awful, terrible film. But 08459 455 555. JVS will be talking about this in the big phone in today after 9. He's asking, will you remember Margaret Thatcher as a good Prime Minister? You can start calling now, 08459 455 555. We really are jumping all over the place this morning. We've been talking about the passing of Margaret Thatcher and page 3. Page 3 of The Sun. We're famous for that around the world. Do you know that? We're famous that Britain's biggest selling newspaper has a bird with her knockers out. That's what we're famous for. Is that really a great image to have around the world? It's like you should the word bird. Joe's from Letchworth. Good morning, Joe.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. What do you think about page 3? I've got to say, I think it's well past its sell-by date.
I think you're stepping on shaky ground when you mention Margaret Thatcher and page 3.
I know.
Is there an image in your mind before JVS comes on the air?
There's a quantum leap has to be made there, yes, I know. Well, page 3, should we get rid of it now? It served its purpose in the 70s and the 80s, but we don't need it now, do we?
It's old hat, mate. We need to get with the times, and you know what? I've got a little girl, and God forbid she should grow up and end up doing something like that, because I'd be sitting there going, oh, well, all this time and effort, all this money, all this love, and that's what she chooses to do.
We spoke to a former page 3 model who said it was something great for young women to aspire to, but I haven't got a daughter, I've got a niece who's 6. I want so much more for her than that.
It's to aspire to actually taking off your bra. I mean, come off it. I mean, we're 2013 in, and like you say, it's an old like 70s, 80s thing. And you know what? When anyone who says, oh, you know, we should still keep it, are just sitting there looking at the newspaper and going, oh, look at that, boobies. And you just think, you creep, get a life, you know?
Yes. Saying that, I have to say, I've been looking at page 17 this morning, where page 3 is, and Rosie, 21 from Middlesex. I do think I've fallen ever so slightly in love with her, just because I've been staring at her for so long. But it's our biggest selling newspaper. That's not news. We don't. I just do think we're better. Well, and listen, I like looking at boobs. Of course I do. I just don't think we need them in the context of a newspaper.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know what? It's anyone who doesn't like looking at boobs isn't a red-blooded male. But like you say, and if you call it a newspaper, you're really referring to the Sun newspaper.
Exactly. Joe, listen, we have to end it there because we're running out of time. I think that there are some red-blooded gentlemen who don't like looking at boobs. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But, Joe, thank you very much for that. Right. Oh, look at the time. I was about to go off on a rant. Haven't got time for a rant. Got time for the travel, though, with Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Ian. Right, the A40 and the M40 looking very busy this morning. So if you're heading toward London, you'll find delays start around the M25 junction and continue through to about the Target roundabout in Northolt. It's a little bit more piecemeal along the A40 now, though things are starting to ease a little bit. There was a broken down car in the Hanger Lane underpass that caused long queues through West London earlier this morning. The A1 southbound still slow from St Neots through to the Black Cat roundabout, then along the A1M from Stevenage and Hitchin. And as you get in toward London round Boreham Wood, Stirling Corner to Mill Hill Circus, we've got a queue on the cameras around there. In Cheshunt, it's busy on the A10 toward the M25. The North Orbital Road in London Coney's looking slow at the Park Street roundabout. In Watford, Vicarage Road pretty slow at Exchange Road and round the Ring Road. M25 itself is looking slow from the M1 to the M40, junction 21 to 16, and a little busy through the roadworks. Trains not doing too badly. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you to everyone who took part. Back tomorrow at 6. JVS is up next.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
And thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. And on this morning's big phone-in, I'm asking, will you remember Margaret Thatcher as a